This is on Jefferson Avenue in West Birmingham, connected possibly to the search of 3-year-old Kamille Cupcake Mckinney and the abduction that happened on Saturday night. We heard word that police are checking out a tip at this location, and a lot of officers there on the scene, a helicopter there too.
Yeah, if you take a closer look, if we can zoom in, actually showing the helicopter, we believe this is either perhaps an Aaliyah helicopter or Jefferson County Sheriff's Office. They also have a helicopter for situations just like this. We also notice if we zoom in there on the gentleman to the left that's not wearing a uniform, that is Dominic McKinney. That would be Kamille's father that we've interviewed about her disappearance. That's a Sheriff's Office helicopter that is flying over the scene as well. But we interviewed him over the weekend Sunday. McKinney herself disappeared. It was around 8:30 at a birthday party in the Tom Brown community. It was about 8:30 on Saturday night. She disappeared, night, yeah. And the word on the street was, and through authorities, that she was actually lured to a vehicle by somebody, a man with candy, put in the vehicle and taken away. And then you can see the heavy police presence, several officers there in SWAT gear with helmets. Not exactly sure if they've already raided the address there on Jefferson Avenue, or they're waiting for some sort of indication to go in. But this all started breaking in the last 15 to 20 minutes. And we have talked to Sergeant Williams, Johnny Williams with the Birmingham Police Department, has told us that they do have a tip. They're checking out a tip in the missing person case of Kamille Cupcake Mckinney. And they're not really sure. They haven't told us any more than that, so we don't know how credible this tip is, but it has to be somewhat credible for them to put this many resources into this response.
Right, and we don't know, and of course there are many things coming in on social media and through phone calls. A lot of people are efforting this search, a lot of agencies, including the FBI, the U.S. Marshal Service, Alabama Law Enforcement Agency, Jefferson County Emergency Management Agency, sheriff's offices. A ton of people have been put forth in this effort, and it takes a lot of people to come together to keep this story alive, and that's exactly what's been going on. So, yeah. And they have to follow through on tips that are especially credible.
And I know that the governor yesterday finalized a $5,000 reward. There's also a private reward that was offered for another $1,000. Police Chief Patrick Smith announced that combined $6,000 reward yesterday. The Amber Alert that was issued late Saturday night has now been expanded to other states, so that's how seriously they're taking this case. A lot of people throughout the Birmingham community and beyond are focused their attention on finding this young girl. I mean, there have been volunteer efforts to search the different communities around the Tom Brown housing community yesterday and the day before. And again, you can see a pretty big police presence. They've got us back about 100 yards from this location. It's a very densely populated residential area. We did know that there is an alcohol and drug abuse treatment center across the street from this location. This is in West Birmingham, not too far from downtown. I'd say about a 10 or 15 minute drive from downtown Birmingham, where they're focusing all their attention trying to figure out if this tip will lead to the safe recovery of Kamille Mckinney.
And let's head out to WVTM 13's Mary O'Connell. Mary just got out to the scene not too long ago. Mary, maybe you can set the scene for us and let us know a little bit about what's going on out there.
Hey, Brittany and John. Well, we're as close as we can get right now. You can see there's police tape behind me. There's a heavy police presence, and then there's a sheriff's office helicopter flying overhead. But just beyond this, actually, if we can swing the camera kind of around, you might be able to see there's a lot of people here that are up as far as they can get where we're at here, gathered, trying to figure out what exactly is going on. I got off the phone with Birmingham Police Sergeant Johnny Williams not too long ago, and here's what he told me in regards to what is going on at this scene. He says they're checking out a tip in regards to the Kamille Cupcake Mckinney case. He says, of course, they've gotten several tips, and this is one that they wanted to check out, but he couldn't divulge much about what that tip was. Of course, McKinney's family is on scene here. I asked if they knew much about what was going on here at this scene behind me, but they don't really know either. We're all just kind of waiting and watching. You've seen, if I step out of the way, there was a heavy police presence and what looked like a SWAT team of sorts going into or out in the street here, maybe going into an apartment over here. We're told that somebody was put in the back of a car at one point. Again, we are just, all we know at this point from Birmingham Police is that they are checking out a tip in regards to the Kamille Mckinney case. We are working to gather more information, and of course we will bring that to you as soon as we get it. Back to you.
Mary, thank you so much for setting the scene for us, and hopefully we will be able to get some more information throughout the morning as investigators and police remain on scene. We do know that charges have been filed against 2 persons of interest in this investigation.
Unrelated charges?
Unrelated charges at this time. Patrick Stallworth and Derek Brown. Again, unrelated charges. We don't know if this has anything to do with either of those 2 persons of interest, but we do know that they are looking into people that are maybe linked to this.
Yeah, and you know, we had a lot of information come out on Sunday. Of course, she disappeared Saturday night, and then Sunday afternoon they had been looking for a specific Toyota SUV. They discovered that SUV, or an SUV matching that description, Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening. They were able to bring that SUV back into the police department's possession. They also arrested or brought in those 2 persons of interest that you just mentioned for questioning, and so they had them in custody for just shy of 2 days, and then they charged them with those unrelated charges late last night. Derek Brown was charged with a bond violation from a separate kidnapping from last year, unrelated to the disappearance with Kamille Mckinney, but a separate kidnapping where she allegedly kidnapped some of her own children last year. She still faces those charges, but they charged her with a bond violation yesterday in connection with that case. And then, of course, Patrick Stallworth is facing a number of child pornography charges. According to Patrick Smith, they discovered a number of images on his personal cell phone after he's brought in for questioning. Again, those images and those charges completely unrelated to McKinney's disappearance over the weekend.
There was a vigil that was held for the kidnapping as well, people coming together, and obviously prayers and thoughts for this little girl and her family at this time. Just a lot of the unknown at a birthday party, taken from a birthday party, and I can't even begin to imagine how scary it is for the family, but I'm sure it is good for them to know that so many people are so involved in this investigation, in this search for her. At this time, all eyes are really on this. The whole city of Birmingham is really rallying behind her and her family. The media, police, investigators are all pushing for her safe return.
Like there have been a number of press conferences, like we've mentioned, including Patrick Smith, the police chief of Birmingham. Mayor Randall Woodfin attended a press conference 2 days ago. He also, yesterday, when he had a chance to address the city council like he does every single week, his last message was for the family of Kamille Mckinney, and thoughts and prayers of everyone in the city going out to them. And of course, a number of city councilors also expressed concern for her safety, urging the police department to pull out all the stops and use every available resource to bring her home safely. And that's what they're doing as we speak. A large number of folks in the community showing up to get an idea of what's going on. I can't even count how many officers are on the scene, several of which wearing bulletproof vests, helmets. I saw one gentleman carrying one of those battering rams that you would use to knock a door down. We also noticed and witnessed the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office helicopter flying over. So they are taking this tip very, very seriously, pulling out, like I said, all the stops to try to bring little Kamille Cupcake Mckinney home to her family.
And you could see this is another angle. We have another photographer there on scene. So this is the other end of the street. It looks like an apartment complex here. Again, a ton of people parked on the sides of the roads, and a lot of people probably just coming out of their homes just to see exactly what's going on, because there is a lot of police, law enforcement there on the scene. You can see the yellow tape too, where the road is blocked off in the location of where they are investigating that tip at this time too. We showed you the helicopter not long ago that is searching from overhead to see what they can find as well. Police did say, again, as John mentioned, they're asking for that reward, but they do feel that there are some people on the sidelines that may have information that are important to the investigation that could be just one step or one piece closer to solving and figuring out exactly what happened to this little girl. And it just takes one person, one citizen, if you see something, say something, to come forward that may link all these pieces to actually figure out where she is.
And they really want somebody to come forward, to the point they've actually set up a separate tip line. We've been announcing both of these numbers for a couple of days now. The Crime Stoppers number is 254. Of course, we now have to dial the area code 205, but 205-254-7777 is the Crime Stopper tip line. But the separate tip line they created specifically for this case is 205-297-8313. Just urging anyone with any information, it may be extremely inconsequential in your mind, but if you've seen a girl that matches these pictures that we've been broadcasting for several days now, call it in. It may not be her, but it could be, and it could save her life. There you see her right there, 3-year-old Kamille Cupcake McKinney, just as cute as a button, beautiful smile, beautiful ponytails and just an innocent angelic face there. 3 years old, kidnapped, missing since Saturday night at a birthday party of all places. She was taken barefoot apparently, left her shoes behind, was playing out in the yard near the birthday party, and somebody snatched her up, lured her away from the party with candy, according to officials. And everybody in the law enforcement community is doing everything they can to locate her.
And we do know this is serious. They issued an Amber Alert almost right away.
It took a few hours, from what I understand.
About 3.5 hours,
yes,
right?
And we asked Patrick Smith about that, the police chief, and he said, look, he said, oftentimes in situations like this, one parent probably thought and there's the Crime Stoppers number there you see on your screen, 254-7777. You know, one parent thinks, oh, she must be with the other parent or with an aunt, and maybe she walked around to a neighbor's house, and so they probably, and from what the chief was saying, tried to locate her on their own, and once they finally realized and they checked with everyone they could think of that she was actually missing and someone had likely taken her, that's when they contacted the authorities and the Amber Alert was issued.
And then on Sunday, that's when police were going door to door in the Tom Brown Village apartment area. They were handing out flyers with her picture on it to look for her, see if anybody had seen her at that point. They released store surveillance photos too from a station, a Shell station that was nearby. That's how they got one of those persons of interest, a suspect vehicle.
Yes.
And again, just putting together the clues little by little to be able to figure out exactly what happened. Just to catch you up, if you're just joining us now, the search is on, continues for 3-year-old Kamille Cupcake Mckinney, and this is a possible tip that police are investigating.
And that's
this
her
morning.
father right in the center right there. That's Dominic McKinney in the blue shoes. I believe that's him because we showed an image of him from the other direction. That is Dominic McKinney, the father of Kamille Cupcake Mckinney. Obviously, this tip must be significant for him to be on scene. Police have probably notified him. Maybe he was the one that told them about the information, but he is on the scene himself. A number of high-ranking Birmingham police officers, detectives, and supervisors I can see there in the background as well. Dozens of officers on the scene, like we mentioned a few minutes ago, wearing helmets, body armor, bulletproof vests, trying to locate Cupcake McKinney.
And this is on Jefferson Avenue.
It is.
Jefferson Avenue in West Birmingham. And the actual kidnapping was on 41st Place North.
Yeah, that's North Avondale portion of Birmingham. If you're familiar with the Avondale Entertainment District, the brewery there and the park there, it's north of that, north of Highway 11 and First Avenue South. That's where that apartment complex is. So that location where she was last seen alive was probably 15-20 minute drive from where they are here.
And you can see that this whole these are two different camera angles that we're showing you now. We have a couple of crews there on the scene, caution tape, and some officers that are standing on one side of the street on Jefferson Avenue, and police that are there blocking off exactly where they're investigating. The other angle was on the other side of the street where it looked like an apartment complex and people kind of gathering outside and trying to probably just witness and see what's going on in that area to see exactly what investigators are doing. And we don't know at this time exactly what this tip is or what exactly they are looking into or where they are looking into right now. We do have Mary O'Connell that is on the scene here in West Birmingham to talk to investigators and to feel out the scene to see what exactly is happening this morning. Is there any way we can talk to Mary?
Is Mary available? Okay.
Okay, we have retired FBI agent Jack Owens on the phone.
Jack, can you hear us? Okay, well, we're going to come back to him in just a minute. Jack Owens, a retired FBI agent from the Birmingham area, to get his perspective on what we're looking at here.
I'm right here. I'm standing here.
And Mary, I can hear Mary in the background, Mary O'Connell as well, still on the scene trying to gather information, gather as many facts as she can. I cannot imagine what Dominic McKinney is going through. Hey, there she is right there, Mary O'Connell. What's the latest from the scene there on Jefferson Avenue?
Well, we're still kind of waiting to hear from Birmingham Police. When I talked to Birmingham Police Sergeant Johnny Williams, he did tell me that this is in regards to the Kamille Cupcake Mckinney case, that they're checking out a tip that they received. Of course, they've received several tips, and this is one that they are looking into. And clearly, they are taking it very seriously. They have taped off this area. There are dozens of people now gathered in the streets here. I reached out to Kamille's grandma. She says she is here on scene. I've asked her if she knows much about what's going on. I'm waiting to hear back from her. I'll step out of the way again so you can kind of see what we're seeing here. Of course, this area is taped off. There is a large presence, and at one point we saw what looked to be some sort of a SWAT or special unit here at some point. They have since moved either to an apartment or behind a complex here off Jefferson Avenue and 28th Street Southwest. We also were told that there was somebody taken into the back of a car. We don't know the status of what was going on there exactly, but Kamille's family has gathered in this location just waiting and hoping to hear some good news of what's going on here. Again, we know that this is in regards to a tip. In this case, of course, Birmingham Police and the Sheriff's Office and Crime Stoppers have received dozens of tips, but this is one that they are obviously taking very seriously.
Hey, Mary, we see a lot of officers and first responders that are gathering around, kind of standing around, blocking off the streets. Can you tell us about the energy there or the vibe there, or exactly where they're looking into? Is it in a house or an apartment building that they're at? Can you tell?
Well, it looks to be that there's an apartment building just off to the right of me over here, and that they may have gone behind or inside. We don't know because we haven't heard that yet from officials, but a lot of people are just holding their breath and waiting right now. I mean, there are dozens of people, family, people in the houses nearby who have just kind of gathered in the streets, and they're just waiting because they all know this has kind of been a case that's gripped an entire community, city and state, if you will, and people have all gathered together hoping to hear some good news about Kamille and where she may be.
Thanks, Mary. We also have heard from law enforcement officials all week, including we talked to Jack Owens. He's a retired FBI agent. We're going to look forward to picking his brain in just a moment, getting his perspective on what he thinks, what possibly could be shaking down out there on Jefferson Avenue in West Birmingham. Every time we've had a press conference, Brittany, in this, either from the police chief or maybe it's the mayor. I know that there was one on Sunday morning really early with Scott Prater, a deputy police chief with Birmingham Police. And every time we hear there's a press conference, we think this could be it. This could be the moment that we find out that she's been brought home safely. And this is the latest development in this ongoing saga of the missing 3-year-old Kamille Mckinney that disappeared Saturday night at 8:30 after a birthday party. Don't know a lot about the birthday party itself. There you can see her dad in the blue shoes there. That's Dominic. I cannot fathom what he's going through. I mean, just not knowing where his daughter has been for the last 4 days, praying that maybe it was a misunderstanding, and that she's going to be found safely. And when they expanded the Amber Alert beyond Alabama, that was just frightening. To think maybe they fear that she had left the state.
And I'm sure there's a lot that investigators cannot share at this time, too. We do have retired FBI agent Jack Owens on the phone with us right now. And Mr. Owens, maybe you could share with us a little bit about what is going on.
What I can share with my fellow citizens in Birmingham is the Birmingham Police Department, the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office, and the local FBI office are terrific investigators, terrific people. I've worked with TAC in Birmingham and with Jefferson County. I have confidence in local police that if we are close to finding Cupcake, that they will do it.
And so basically, you get a tip like this. How do you discern between a legitimate tip and a questionable tip? So what kind of information would prompt then to launch with this kind of force, Jack?
Well, there are details of this that the public has not been told. If a tip comes in that sounds credible, when police talk to the person giving the tip, they may ask them questions that only the police know to confirm that this caller knows something, or maybe the caller doesn't know something but simply saw something. The police will not tell us everything, and rightly so.
Of course.
That's what I was going to say, Jack. So many years, I've been doing this a long time. We're interviewing police department officials about investigations, and they often are tight-lipped about the investigation for this very reason. So they will have information, which is a weapon in essence, to track someone down, to get them to give them additional leads. Because if they tell us everything, we broadcast everything, then the public knows everything. So if that's a good reason why they've been more, I guess, limited with what they can release on this case.
I have, as a former law enforcement official in the FBI, I have complete confidence in who's handling this investigation. Primarily primary source is Birmingham PD and the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office. They are really, really good departments to have on your side.
How important is it, though, for so many different agencies to get involved to help out in something like this?
Well, we can all put our heads together. I've been involved in kidnappings, and we meet and we kick around ideas, and our training kicks in both as firearms people and as detectives, investigators. The more people, the better, to just sit around and talk about this. And when there's something we have that requires action, that action has to take place immediately. And that's what we're seeing on our TV screens. I live up on Red Mountain, and I can actually see the helicopter. I could not long ago. So I feel very close to this situation, and having talked about Cupcake as I have since in recent days, I feel this feels to me like we're close, but I have no information to indicate one thing or the other.
Right.
But I'm putting my confidence, and rightly so, in our local police department here.
Jack, I spoke with a veteran police officer on Sunday night after this all started breaking, and he said that stranger abductions are rare, that typically, we'll see multiple custodial kidnappings a year, but how rare are kidnappings? I'm not saying this one is or is not custodial, but from what I understand from what police department it said on Sunday, they're treating this as a stranger abduction. How rare are those in Alabama and in Birmingham?
Stranger abductions are rare. Let's take this case, for example. We all know, after seeing photographs of Cupcake, that she is exceedingly beautiful and adorable. And if people with evil intent, and these monsters have evil intent, if they want to abduct her for whatever reason, and they knew right where to find her, it just seems like they had information beforehand that she was going to be at that party. But I stress, I don't know any more than our viewers know and our fellow citizens. But please have faith that it's being handled expertly. I know I do.
Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your perspective on this and everything that you've contributed in the past. And it's great to hear from someone like you, the confidence that you have in our local departments and our local agencies. We appreciate you so much joining us here.
Thanks, Jack.
Thank you for calling.
No problem. Again, setting the scene for you here. This all broke around 10 o'clock this morning, 10:15. The Birmingham Police Department received a strong tip that perhaps this was this location on Jefferson Avenue was connected to the disappearance of Kamille Cupcake Mckinney. We have been told that by Sergeant Johnny Williams. He is the spokesperson with the Birmingham Police Department, and ever since then there's been a strong police presence on this stretch of road. We've seen a number of SWAT members wearing the helmets and the gear, the bulletproof vest, even a battering ram, a handheld battering ram, probably about 15 or 20 minutes ago, Brittany.
Right.
And there you see in the blue shoes there, that's Dominic McKinney. That is Cupcake's father that we interviewed over the weekend, just doing everything he can, contacting everyone he can think of to see if anyone knows anything about her whereabouts. And up to this point, up to when we talked to Patrick Smith, the police chief in Birmingham, yesterday, even after they announced these unrelated charges against those two persons of interest, they said they did not have any information about her whereabouts, despite all these other leads in the case.
And I'm not a mom, but John, you're a dad, and I just couldn't imagine being.
And I have a beautiful daughter that looks just like Cupcake. It would destroy me.
Beautiful, and he's kind of been pacing around and looking down and just wondering. Mary was saying that her grandmother is on the scene too. Just imagine what's going through their minds, and I'm sure that they are just at the forefront of this investigation, along with, as Mary mentioned too, she was right, the whole community rallying together when something like this happens to stay vigilant. And obviously our police, our local police, our law enforcement agencies are all right there on the front lines too, to make sure that we do find a resolution.
Yeah, he was interviewed over the weekend, like we mentioned. It was Sunday morning, I believe, that we talked to him. Described her, just a big smile on her face all the time, and his first daughter. I think he has 4 kids, but I believe he said that she was his first daughter, and that she is very special to him, along with all of his other children. But as a dad, I'm a dad. I have a 9-year-old daughter, and not knowing where she is, that she would just disappear like that for any amount of time, is just a nightmare for any parent. And he's probably been told of a number of leads, whether it's from people in the community, family members that he knows, friends that he knows. Hey, and we even heard a tip that there was a chase at one point in Etowah County on Sunday that was not legitimate. And so he probably heard tips like that too. And you get your hopes up, and then you're disappointed. You're heartbroken over again. And so you can see him pacing back and forth there, just praying and hoping that in the next couple of moments that he'll be reunited with his 3-year-old.
It is important how big or how small a tip you may think may be to report anything that you may know. We did mention that on Monday, Governor Kay Ivey announced that she was in discussion. They had finalized plans now that there is now a $5,000 reward for information leading to the arrest and conviction for those responsible for her disappearance. And then there's an additional $1,000 from a private donor for information that's related to this case.
WVTM 13's Mary O'Connell has been on the scene for the last 15 to 20 minutes. She joins us now with another update from what she can see there on Jefferson Avenue. This is about 10 to 15 minutes west of downtown Birmingham. What's the latest, Mary?
Hey, John and Brittany, we're still waiting to hear more from Birmingham Police, but I can tell you when I spoke to Birmingham Police Sergeant Johnny Williams this morning, this is in regards to the Kamille Mckinney case. It's a tip that they got that they're obviously taking very seriously. We've heard the sheriff's office helicopter overhead. We have dozens of people in the streets here, and they blocked off a large section here off Jefferson Avenue. I'll step out of the way so you guys can see. We had seen a SWAT team of some sort in the street, and it appeared as though they had gone behind a apartment complex of sorts here off Jefferson Avenue. We're at Jefferson Avenue and 28th Street Southwest. I do know that Kamille's family is on scene here. I talked to her grandma very briefly, and she said yes, she is here, but she couldn't say, or she hasn't answered at least at this point on what may be going on here. But other family members have also gathered, and dozens of people who are unrelated to the family, but are just, they care so much about this case. It has gripped people in this community, and people really are taking this to heart, and we're hoping for good news here. But I can tell you that this is one tip that they are taking very seriously here, and that they're checking out thoroughly.
All right, thank you so much, Mary. Keep us posted if you hear any more information from either the police there on the scene or McKinney's grandmother. Oh boy, just a tense moment right now in West Birmingham on Jefferson Avenue.
It sure is. We have a couple of crews there on the scene keeping a very close eye on exactly what's going on. We've been following this case now for a few days since Saturday night when this first happened. Again, two angles. This is showing one side of Jefferson Avenue, and that we have another perspective from the other side of the road where Mary was standing. We see.
I believe this is the western side. This is
Western
looking
side,
east, I believe, on Jefferson Avenue, and that she's looking to the west from her location. Apartment complex on the right. That apartment complex, from what I can tell from my map here, is on the south side of Jefferson Avenue. Again, this is about 10 minutes west of downtown Birmingham, probably 15 minutes, 20 minutes from the location that she disappeared from on Saturday night at 8:30, the Tom Brown Village Housing Complex in North Avondale. If you're familiar with the Avondale community, this is that was just north of the Avondale with all the bars and the restaurants and the park there. That's where she was kidnapped from or taken from Saturday night. This location is west of that by about 15 to 20 minutes.
And you can see a lot of detectives and police officers that are just kind of standing around. It doesn't look like maybe too much is going on, but we don't know who is actually going into the exact location where they're investigating. We don't know
if they've already gained entry. We don't know if they're
Correct.
interviewing witnesses on the scene. We don't know if they're negotiating or communicating with somebody on the inside of a residence. At this point, we just have to stand back and watch because they don't want us to get too close. It could jeopardize their operation.
That's what we don't want to do, too, as media. We have the responsibility to make sure that we are handling information the right way. And
We want to help bring her home safely and just report to you what happens.
Facilitate the investigation to hopefully bring new leads forward. So we don't want to get in the way of law enforcement. That's why we take a step back. We stay, behind the caution tape line, and we take a viewpoint with you to see what is unfolding as it's unfolding, which is a perspective to wait and see. And then as soon as we get information, we bring it to you. But we are all following this case with our hearts open in hopes to find this 3-year-old beautiful little girl that was abducted on Saturday night, lured into an SUV on 41st Place North. Following this Amber Alert, everybody is on high alert to make sure that we can hopefully bring her home safely. We know that her family and her father, her grandmother, and everybody is hoping for her safe return.
Definitely. And again, we've had a number of developments since she vanished on Saturday night. In this case, they had an SUV, a bolo for an SUV that was a part of that Amber Alert. It was a Toyota SUV, and they made it more specific. It was a Sequoia of a certain color, and they found through several surveillance footages and other videos that they located through different resources, they discovered that in Center Point and confiscated that vehicle and also brought 2 persons of interest into custody, and we've mentioned them a couple of times this morning. They are not being charged with this case at all, but they did charge them with unrelated counts. Patrick Stallworth was one of the individuals that was seen in some surveillance pictures, and now he's in custody still, charged with child pornography. According to Patrick Smith, the police chief of Birmingham, they found some images on his personal cell phone. Those are unrelated to the disappearance of Kamille Mckinney. And then Derek Brown, female, she also was charged last night with a bond violation in connection with a completely separate custodial kidnapping of her own children last year, and that case is still pending in court. They charged with a bond violation in that. So those are the 2 individuals they have in custody, persons of interest at this point in this case, but they are in some way linked, according to police, at least to the vehicle that they confiscated on Sunday.
We do know that many agencies are involved. Obviously, Birmingham is heading this investigation. The FBI is involved, the U.S. Marshal's Office, ALEA, Alabama Law Enforcement Agency, Jefferson County Emergency Management Agency, but also the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office, the Shelby County Sheriff's Office. A lot of people, as Mr. Jack Owens, retired FBI agent, was saying, to put all their heads together to try to piece together all the information that they do have to be able to find the best solution and the best way to go about an investigation. Sometimes it takes a lot of different people to find the best ways to do that. And
this case is being treated very seriously. I remember yesterday, it was actually Sunday morning, I saw the press conference with Deputy Chief Scott Prater. I've known him a long time homicide detective, been very involved with the police department for decades, and you could tell he had a worried look on his face, and he said stranger abductions, which is the way they were treating this at that time, and I think since then, are not common. Custodial kidnappings happen. You've got one parent that doesn't have custody over the kids, but they want to see the kids, but the court says they can't. This situation, they've said they've treated it as a stranger abduction up to this point. They're not ruling out anything, but they have said that is a strong possibility that it was a stranger abduction, and those are not common. So they've pulled out all the stops. The reward that we've talked about, we saw a helicopter hovering over this scene as well. And you've got a number of law enforcement agencies pitching in to try to bring Kamille Mckinney home. Luring
her possibly with candy into an SUV. And time is of the essence with something like this. When you have a tip that is credible or has some, something that they really want to check out, they need to go for it right away and to have all the preparations that they need. This is a look right now. We wanted to show you a map of the exact location where our crews are at, where investigators are at, where this tip came in today. This is in Jefferson County, and it does look like, I know Mary had mentioned 28th Street Southwest, also nearby.
It's cross street, yes.
Is the cross street. Pearson Avenue Southwest, 24th Street Southwest. Again, as they continue the search, we were kind of setting the scene earlier with an apartment complex nearby, some homes nearby too.
From what I can tell, this is about 3 or 4 minutes southwest of the Crossplex. If you're familiar with 5 Points West, that section of Birmingham. So this is southwest of that, headed towards Midfield and Fairfield in that direction, southwest towards in the Bessemer direction of Jefferson County. So that's where they're located. They've been there probably for almost an hour now, because we found out about it shortly after 10 o'clock, 10:15 this morning, and they've been there ever since. And the police presence has increased over the last 45 minutes. Like we mentioned, the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office has lent their helicopter in the effort to try to figure out how legitimate this tip is. But they've had a number of leads and tips come in. We've got multiple tip lines that we've been telling you about this morning, and pretty much ever since Saturday, since this case started. Around 8:30 Saturday night, they've received numerous tips. We've seen her here. She could be here. So they check out every single one of these tips. So for them to pour this many resources into this scene to me means that this is one of the stronger leads that they've pursued. Of course, we don't find out about every lead that they take on, maybe in the middle of the night, but this one, having the father on the scene there and several other members of the community and all these other resources, this one's a pretty strong tip, it seems.
And we appreciate you joining us and tuning in and following this investigation as well. The more eyes, the more shares we have of this story, the more people that could potentially see something or be involved or hear something. It only takes one thing to possibly crack a case. We do see, if we're looking off in the distance, again, that yellow caution tape beyond it, some people standing, maybe people that live in the area that are just like us, checking out what's going on behind the scenes. We do see a lot of flashing lights from police officers, Birmingham police, that are there on the scene, and other officers that are just standing in the blocked off area of the road to make sure that nobody crosses.
Yeah, this is looking west. This is the side of the police tape that Mary O'Connell was standing at a minute ago. You can see the apartment complex. And so this is looking west. The other vantage point we showed you was looking east on Jefferson Avenue southwest. You see two officers basically standing guard to make sure nobody else gets any closer, and to keep the cameras out, to keep just the general public out, because they don't want anyone to interfere. And this could be a volatile situation. You don't know if she is at this location, where it is, behind that building in another house, but somebody could be obviously, armed and dangerous, and they want to keep everybody out of harm's way at the same time, do everything they can to recover her safely.
There is a reason why they blocked off the street and they have so many people there. We don't know that reason as of right now. We're zoomed in to an area where the father was standing just a moment ago.
That's Dominic McKinney.
There he is, just kind of pacing around, and I'm sure he doesn't have all the exact details and information about what exactly is going on at this moment, too. A lot of times officers are keeping tight-lipped with the tips that they have so that they can thoroughly investigate before releasing any information to not ruin any potential leads that may come in.
Can we pull up the picture of Kamille McKinney again? Just want to show the public her photographs. Her beautiful smile, get her pictures up there. So if you see her or have seen her, maybe you recognize her. Beautiful ponytails there and a gorgeous smile. Kamille McKinney, 3 years old, disappeared on Saturday night in her little sandals there. According to the investigators that we've spoken with over the last couple of days, she was, and that's her dad right behind her there. This looks like maybe a little bit, she looks a little younger, maybe 2 years old in this picture perhaps, but he released these pictures to us, I think it was yesterday or Monday, that we could get out there and so people could see them. And if they've noticed her on the streets, if they've noticed anybody with her, maybe at a store, driving around town, they could contact one of those tip line numbers that we've been mentioning all morning. There she is in the passenger seat of the car with her ponytails there. So if you recognize Cupcake McKinney, her gorgeous little, and I was going to say, I forgot to mention this earlier, Dominic, her dad, when it was asked where the nickname came from, he just remembered the moment she was born, and she just looked like a cupcake. And so ever since then, that was her nickname, and it stuck. So very, very sweet story behind that nickname.
Yeah, as you were mentioning, John, this happened at the Tom Brown Village Public Housing Community. This is off of Messer Airport Highway area. Kamille was with her mom and other family members at this birthday party. It was in a parking lot off of 41st Place North. There were children that were attending this birthday party, and it was said that a man got out of an SUV and lured Kamille and put her into a vehicle.
I think initially it was an 11-year-old boy that witnessed her being lured to the van and was basically teased by Candy to come to the van. We have Jeff Eliasoff, WVTM 13's Jeff Eliasoff, on the scene with another vantage point. Jeff, what can you tell us so far?
Well, again, another 2, 3, 4 police vehicles have just pulled up to the scene here. I'm at the intersection of Jefferson and Steiner. Just got here a couple of minutes ago. What strikes me is the investment that the entire community is making in finding this little girl behind photographer Todd Eagle here. I won't ask him to do a 180, but we have a lot of people behind the police line here, I would say. Maybe 50 or 60 people looking on. Helicopter circling ahead. So as you were saying, John, it's very clear from all indications this is about the hottest tip they may have gotten over these past 4 days. Behind me, as Todd, I believe, is kind of able to see a little bit. Okay. We we're looking, I think, as you were indicating about Dominic, the father, was able to spot him just a few moments ago. He has been very expressive at times about how close he is to this baby, Cupcake, and the whole community, as I say, is drawing closer as we certainly pray for a good resolution to what has been a nightmare for obviously the family, but for the greater family. Mayor Woodfin saying at that news conference on Monday that this is affecting the wider area, not just a family, not just the individual community, the Tom Brown village where she was abducted, but the wider city of Birmingham. And we are seeing this, as you said, John, this location where we are is about 15 or 20 minutes away from that abduction site. And here people are standing in the street, all with very somber faces. There's not the kind of laughter sometimes you see at a crime scene. People just sort of want to be on TV. You can tell. I see some police officers here standing by as well. Everybody really is so tense and so concerned about this little girl. And before I throw it back to you, a number of people have said to me, why spend so much time on this one child? And I think the only answer I can give as the father of two children is, what if it were your child? Wouldn't you want this effort, all the king's horses and men and women searching for your baby as well? John, we'll send it back to you and Brittany.
Well, Jeff, can you still hear me?
I can.
Yeah, had a chance to talk to anybody in the community since you arrived on the scene about how worried they are?
Not really. Yeah, it's really just registered on their faces. They don't know this little girl any better than you and I do, but I think it's safe to say that this is the big cause for Birmingham and Central Alabama these last 3 or 4 days, and people are really in rapt attention. What's going on behind us is not known, and we're, of course, we're being very careful not to show people who don't want to be shown on television. There are a number of undercover people. We know that the U.S. Marshal's Office and the FBI and the like are involved in this case, so we are obviously keeping our distance and being very mindful of not just the sensitivity of the family, but law enforcement as well. John?
All right. Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate that. Again, Jeff's, I believe, looking east towards this scene. This is actually looking west. This apartment complex is on the south side of Jefferson Avenue Southwest. This is the vantage point that Mary O'Connell's been on all morning long. She was the first of our reporters to arrive there on the scene. Spoke to the grandmother of Kamille Mckinney when she arrived, and of course didn't have any information or wasn't able to glean any information from the grandmother about the source of this tip, the context of this tip, what led police to arrive on this scene around 10 o'clock this morning. We also have been highlighting the fact that the father is there as well. There's the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office helicopter hovering above. This is a live shot of that helicopter, trying to give investigators and crews on the ground the best vantage point they can. If anybody tries to run, it also has sonar technology on that helicopter. If it was even at night, they would be able to track them through their body heat if they were to leave the scene. So that gives the investigators and the SWAT team on the ground a new weapon, a unique weapon that I don't believe they've had for only a year or so in cases like this, whether it's a kidnapping case or a fugitive from justice case in any other crime. So they are flying around trying to see if anybody else is fleeing the location that's being targeted by the police presence there you see.
And Jeff was talking about just the investment of the community into what's going on here and how many resources that they're using in order to find this little girl. And Jeff was saying this is possibly the hottest tip that they've had so far, using so many different law enforcement agencies there on that scene this morning, blocking off the roads, using that helicopter, and to really go full force into figuring out if this tip is indeed credible and can lead to finding little 3-year-old Kamille Cupcake Mckinney. Again, this is an unusual circumstance they were talking about with this type of abduction. This isn't a parent that drove away with their child. This was somebody luring a little girl into a vehicle. This is something that sometimes you hear about in movies, something that you'd never think could happen to a child or somebody that you know or someone even in your own community, which is one reason why we're just hoping that everything comes out okay.
And if that account is true, that she was lured to this vehicle with candy, like you said, it's something out of the movies. We do not see stranger abductions like this very often at all. I've heard that repeated. I know that Scott Prater, the deputy police chief that held the first police press conference in this case early Sunday morning, made that very clear that, you know, we have custodial kidnappings, and what that is, you've got a mother or father that doesn't currently have custody of the child, but they want to see the child, but either the other parent or the courts won't allow them access to the child. They'll just show up at a location where they feel the child may be located and then take them. That's a custodial kidnapping. In this situation, according to police, they believe it's more serious and more criminal than that kind of abduction.
And there are charges that have been filed against 2 persons of interest. No idea if this tip is any way related to them. They're being held on those charges that have nothing to do with this particular kidnapping, and they're likely for questioning. Patrick Stallworth and Derek Brown were 2 people that they were speaking to at this time, but no word if they have anything to do with this case at all. But they are, again, exhausting all resources. They're looking into tips that come in. They're hearing from the tip line, the police tip line, Crime Stoppers, for people who come in to see which tips are ones that they should be looking into.
And I don't know if we have those tip line numbers. We can put them back up on the screen for you momentarily. There's the one for Crime Stoppers. That's 205-254-7777. If you have recognized Kamille Mckinney from the pictures we've been showing, that's the main Crime Stoppers tip line. There's also a separate tip line that the police department revealed earlier this week that they're giving out as well. That is 205-297-8313 for any information leading to her recovery and perhaps a conviction or arrest in this case. There's also, we've mentioned this before, a reward that has been announced by the governor of Alabama, Kay Ivey. There are both the tip line numbers you see there on your screen. But there's a $5,000 reward that was announced by Governor Ivey's office, and then an anonymous private citizen also put another $1,000 with that $5,000, so a total of $6,000 in reward money available for any information that leads to the safe return of Kamille Mckinney and a conviction for her abduction.
There was also a vigil that several people came together, her family and pastors came together on Monday night in the exact spot where Kamille was last seen to pray for her safe return. A lot of people are also praying for the same thing for her. This location right now is not where the 3-year-old little girl disappeared. This is a current tip investigation that we're looking into today on Jefferson Avenue, which was, John, you were mentioning, maybe about 20 minutes away
15
from
to 20
location.
minutes. I may actually try to calculate that in a moment here, because this is southwest of the Crossplex, 5 points west. If you're familiar with that part of Birmingham, you're almost driving to Midfield, Fairfield, and Lipscomb and Brighton, that section of Jefferson County. That's where they're located as we speak. The location where she was abducted or missing from was in North Avondale. That's east of downtown Birmingham. If you're familiar with the Avondale Brewery or Avondale Park, the restaurants in that location, North Avondale is the neighborhood where the Tom Brown housing complex is. That's where she was taken on Saturday night.
If you're just joining us right now, we do have 2 separate crews, WVTM 13's Jeff Eliasoff and Mary O'Connell, both at the scene where we were just talking about on Jefferson Avenue, looking, kind of getting 2 different perspectives of where we are seeing police investigate for today. This you said was the west side?
Yeah, because the apartment complex is on the south side of Jefferson Avenue. This would be looking west, since it's on the south side. So this is where Mary O'Connell's been all morning since she got there about 45 minutes ago. And then Jeff Eliasoff's on the other side of the road there.
And Jeff was mentioning too about 50 to 60 onlookers are at that location, people likely coming out of the apartment complex or their homes to also see what's going on. This is that location right there. We are keeping a safe distance away to not get in the way of investigators of where they're looking at this tip right now. I believe that's where the father is too.
I think so. On the left, that group of folks that are huddled in the center of the screen by those vehicles in blue shoes, if we have to zoom in though to see him, but Dominic McKinney has been there pretty much since we've been on the air, and probably before that. He was probably one of the first Members of the public on the scene was notified right away that they had this tip that was going to require this level of force, this level of response by a number of SWAT team members with helmets, bulletproof vests, and a handheld battering ram that we saw walk towards this apartment complex that you see now on your right. That's the south side of Jefferson Avenue Southwest. So that took place about, I'd say, it was about 10:30. Wouldn't you say when we saw that group of men
about
with officers
10:30.
about 10:30? So wherever they were headed on foot, I would assume that they've reached that location and are either in the process of breaching that address, whether it's a home or an apartment complex or an apartment, or they're in the process of negotiating with whoever's inside.
Let's get out to WVTM 13's Mary O'Connell, who has been live on the scene for quite some time now. Mary, have you been able to hear anything about what specifically is going on there today?
Hey guys, I just reached out to Birmingham Police probably within the last 10 minutes, and they have nothing new for us yet, just letting police perform a search of this area off Jefferson Avenue. This is in regards to the Kamille Cupcake Mckinney case. Her family is on scene here as well. I've checked in with them a couple times, and they have not, they don't know, either don't know or aren't able to say what is going on here. But we've seen several officers from different agencies show up over the last, I'd say, 45 minutes that we've been here, and more people have gathered in the streets as well. Somebody's now holding up a sign saying, "Bring back Kamille, her mother needs her." Her grandma is here on scene. I reached out to her father as well, but haven't heard back from him to see what he might know. If you take a look behind me, you can see just how they've taped off this area here off Jefferson Avenue, and we're just kind of waiting to hear about this tip that they are looking into. I talked to Crime Stoppers yesterday a little bit about how easy it is for people to send in these tips, and if this just goes to show people how they are taken very seriously, let this be a moment for people to send in those tips and to be alert and keep their eyes open, because those tips are received and they are looked into, and this is just goes to show that police and law enforcement take these seriously, and they want to bring Kamille home just as much as anyone else.
Well, again, thank you so much, Mary O'Connell, live there on the scene. We're this apartment complex is on Jefferson Avenue Southwest. This is the south. You're looking actually south towards the apartment complex. We're probably about 100, 150 yards away from where we saw the SWAT team members walking in that direction. We don't know if they're targeting that building, that apartment building, or maybe a house nearby. Like I was mentioning, this section is West Birmingham, and I just did calculate. This is about a 21-minute drive from the spot where Kamille Mckinney was taken Saturday night at 8:30 from the Tom Brown Village housing complex. So this is a 21-minute drive from there. At one point on Monday, they announced they were expanding the Amber Alert that was issued Saturday night. The initial Amber Alert was local. They expanded that Amber Alert to other states. So there was some concern that perhaps she'd been taken out of the state. But this tip that they're pursuing this morning indicates that, at least right now, based on this information, they're hoping that she is only 20 minutes from where she was taken on Saturday night.
Police say someone knows something. If she's hungry at this time, they know if she was wearing what she was last wearing at that birthday party, which was a leopard t-shirt shirt and shorts. She had blue, white, and yellow bows in her hair, and she didn't have shoes on because they were left in the parking lot. Is she barefoot still at this time? Somebody knows something. So it is so important for the public to stay vigilant. Let's get out to WVTM 13's Jeff Eliasoff right now, who is also at the scene on the other side of the location of the road, Jefferson Avenue, as Mary was. Jeff, have you heard anything from your perspective? Have you spoken to any officers there?
We have not spoken to officers in the past few moments, although about 10 or 15 minutes ago I did speak with our police contact, as Mary's been in touch with him as well, and he was saying this is one of several leads that is being pursued today. Any credible lead is being pursued. This is what both the police chief and the mayor called for on Monday. Please don't clog up the line with hearsay or pranks. Please, if you know anything that might be credible, pass it along to us. And one would think from what we're seeing here at the scene that there has been some credible possible evidence of sighting of this girl, and neighbors here. This is, by the way, the Germania Park neighborhood, according to neighbors. For those of you familiar with the 99 neighborhoods of Birmingham, this is one on the west side, about 20 minutes, as you say, John, from where this little girl was abducted. Police do tell us that this is what they believe to be credible information, but beyond that, obviously, they're not telling us anything until a complete search of this area has been gone through. As we look out, you can see in the distance a number of different types of vehicles, many of them unmarked, as we've indicated to you. This is not just a problem for the Birmingham police. This is an all-points bulletin, as it were. We know that the Amber Alert has been sounded across all of the neighboring states, and this has also involved the FBI. I've seen a number of cars so marked, the U.S. Marshal's Office, and numbers of people working undercover. So we in the media are very sensitive to this, not only, as we say, to the family and their number one priority, bringing this beautiful girl, Kamille, back home, but also to the law enforcement officers who have been so diligently working this case for the past going on 4 days now. The police chief saying, we're putting everything we've got into this, and the mayor saying in that Monday news conference that I attended, whatever you need, we will provide. So if there are additional manpower needs, overtime needs obviously are enormous here. This has been a 24/7 operation. The city is really putting its back into this and hoping, of course, for the best possible resolution. So once again, I'm standing at Jefferson and Steiner. This is what I would guess, as a football fan, maybe 250 yards away from that yellow tape where the police are keeping us back, and that's where Mary has been talking to folks. I've been talking to the neighbors. Many of them are stunned that there is a search going on in their area. But they also, one woman told me, she does feel some peculiar connection to this little girl and feels that she is alive. And, of course, who am I to discount feeling like that? That is what we are all hoping, and certainly hoping for a good resolution to this. But as we know, time is of the essence, and a lot of time has gone by since that birthday party, 8:30 Saturday night. John and Brittany?
Hey, Jeff, before we let you go, or go away from you there, have you noticed an increase? I know you said there were about 50 to 60 people behind you and Todd there on Jefferson Avenue. Have you seen any more folks show up since you got there on the scene?
No, it's fairly stable now. About the same numbers of people. A lot of people with their cell phones out, trying to take pictures, trying to communicate. Some people actually weeping here. That it's all come down to this. For one 3-year-old child who, no matter the circumstances, as one neighbor told me, just doesn't deserve whatever's happening to her now. And we hope that wherever she is in those leopard pants and that pink shirt, that she's okay. By the way, I'm going to be out here all afternoon, so you never have to worry if I'm still here. This is our number one priority at WVTM 13, and I dare say other media outlets too, is finding this little girl and praying that she is A-okay.
Jeff, we appreciate that too. Can you just tell us too about how many law enforcement officers you see out there, how many cars maybe? We see a lot of detectives and people that are standing around. Do you have an estimate?
Well, let's see. Right around here, I've only got 2 or 3 police vehicles right at the Steiner Avenue intersection here. So 2, 3 here. Now, down that street there, it's almost impossible to estimate because, as I say, we have a number of undercover people that we don't want to show. But I would say conservatively 40 or 50 law enforcement officers in this area right now. That doesn't include the helicopter circling ahead. And I am looking to see if that is a Jeffco or Birmingham Police helicopter, and I can't really tell the markings. I do see one hopeful sign, perhaps an omen that at long last the sun is out this morning. I hope that makes a clearer path for all those who are looking and searching and praying today.
Jeff, thank you so much. We'll check in with you again, and Mary as well, in just a few moments. We do know with an investigation like this, time is of the essence, and they're taking this very seriously, which is why they went in likely full force with so many different agencies and people there to investigate the proper way to have that helicopter and everything they need at this location at one time.
Again, we're going to just recap where we are. Around 10 to 10:15 this morning, we received information that the Birmingham Police Department was responding to this location on Jefferson Avenue Southwest on a tip in the disappearance of Kamille Mckinney. There's her gorgeous little picture there on the left. She disappeared Saturday night from a birthday party at the Tom Brown Village Housing Complex. That's in North Avondale, east of downtown Birmingham. Some information that the Birmingham Police Department received led them to this location. This is an apartment complex on Jefferson Avenue Southwest, about a 20 to 21 minute drive from where she was last seen Saturday night. We have a number of law enforcement officers on the scene. Some are in uniform, some are not. Some are wearing bulletproof vests and helmets. And one was carrying a handheld battering ram a few minutes ago. Actually, it's more like an hour ago now. Time has gone by on us. We also have witnessed a Jefferson County Sheriff's Office helicopter hovering above. So they are pulling out all the stops to try to locate Kamille Mckinney after her disappearance on Saturday. A number of family members there. I believe that's the grandmother on the left with the blonde hair and the black baseball hat. I believe that was Kamille's grandmother. And also Dominic Mckinney has been on the scene since the get-go. We've noticed him walking back and forth, pacing. That is, I believe, no, that's not him, but that's where he was standing earlier by that silver SUV. He may have walked in the same direction as Kamille's grandmother, but he's there as well. We had a chance to interview him over the weekend on Sunday morning. He could not, say enough about his daughter, that she was basically his first daughter, and described the origin of the nickname Cupcake when she was born, and she was just so adorable that he nicknamed her Cupcake, and that name has stuck ever since. So there's a prominent member of the Birmingham Homicide Division nodding his head, not sure exactly what he was acknowledging there. There's a woman with a smile on her face, perhaps. We don't know for sure. Perhaps there has been a development there on the scene, especially with the grandmother being escorted by police across the street. So we're going to wait and see how this develops. We've got photographers. There's Blake, one of our photographers, approaching, trying to get a better shot. Perhaps there's some activity that we are not able to get a vantage point from earlier that they believe is worth getting a little closer look.
You do notice that we are staying behind the yellow caution tape right now. We want to make sure that we're not getting in officers' way. And the police department does a great job, too, of giving us new information when they are able to give us new information. We see another law enforcement vehicle, not exactly sure what department it's from, going under the yellow caution tape to go into the scene, which has been happening throughout the morning. Again, we are talking about this 3-year-old beautiful little girl, Kamille Mckinney. She was last seen wearing a leopard t-shirt, blue, white, yellow bows in her hair. She had lost her shoes in the parking lot of where she was last seen on 41st Street North area on Saturday night, right around 8:30 in the evening. And we also wanted to talk about what police have been saying throughout this whole time, asking for tips, asking for help. They do believe that there are people on the sidelines that do have information that's close to this investigation that may be helping, that could help to bring them closer to putting this together. If it's video from a cell phone or if it's something that somebody knows or heard, make sure you do come forward. You can see the camera kind of shaking a little bit.
That's veteran photographer Mel Stevens there. And I've been in that situation many, many times. You're live on the air, but you've got to get the right angle. You don't have a chance to really, stop, and you've got to move the camera so you can give us and give the public the right perspective of what's going on. This is a different angle maybe from the other directions. Todd Eagle's angle. This would be west perhaps of where we were looking at a minute ago. Maybe there has been some development. We're trying to find out. Again, we're completely removed from what's going on. So all we can tell you is what we're witnessing from about 100 yards away. So we're doing the best we can, but we know there are thousands of our viewers out there that want to know where is Kamille McKinney, and it's our obligation to stay on the air and give you the very latest information, and we have to do so from afar because we don't want to get too close. Obviously, we can't cross the crime tape. We would never do that at any scene like this, but we have to wait to hear from police what how this culminates into the finality of their response, which was about 10 o'clock this morning. We're not really receiving a lot of new information. We did talk to Sergeant Johnny Williams once we arrived on the scene, and since then, and he's basically has told our reporters on the scene, both Mary O'Connell and I believe Jeff Elisoff as well, that we do not have any additional details at this moment. Now, they may have received some additional information in the last couple of minutes, but they've not relayed that to us. But at this point, and that's looking back, I believe that's Todd Eagle on the hill there on the top left corner of your screen. And yep, and there's Jeff Elisoff on his right. So we're looking back. This is looking west on Jefferson Avenue Southwest. The apartment complex, like we've said, is on the south side of this road, and we're looking back west towards Jeff Elisoff and Todd Eagle on from their vantage point on the hill there. They have a pretty nice vantage point, but I think this location, this is Blake or Mel Stevens' camera this is Blake's camera looking westbound on Jefferson Avenue Southwest at this apartment complex. And that's the father right there. That is Dominic McKinney walking into the scene. They're allowing him to get a lot closer than he was earlier. He was having to stay across the street by that silver SUV I mentioned a few minutes ago. Now he's walking up closer. So we don't know if this means the scene is been examined and then they've exhausted their efforts on this location or not. It's hard to tell. He doesn't seem to be running in, but we'll find out soon enough what they found here.
And it does appear to be very calm there at the scene right now. We don't know what's happening behind the scenes, things that we don't know about or things that are being talked about right now, but we do see a lot of investigators that are kind of gathered around in circles, probably talking to each other. We do know that this has been going on for quite some time this morning. The first time I heard about it this morning was right around 10 o'clock. Yeah. And we sent crews out right away. So they have been there for at least an hour or so at this point too. Not exactly sure what time detectives and investigators initially got there this morning, but they've been out there for, I'd say, at least 2 hours at this point, looking into the tip and seeing exactly looking into at least what information that they got in.
Yeah, I believe this is the closest perspective we've received from our crews in the field. This is on the same side of the road as the apartment complex, looking westbound. Based on how tightly he's zoomed in, it's hard to tell if he's, I would say, maybe 100 yards away from that police activity. And of course, Blake is zooming out as we speak. And this will be Todd Eagle's camera from the western vantage point looking east towards the scene.
You see a ton of people there.
We're going back and forth so much.
I think you're right, John.
Okay,
I think
good.
you're right. We were looking at the map. We were looking at our Google Maps on our phone too, just to get a better perspective, so we understand exactly where they are. But you could see all of the people in the distance, again behind that caution tape, just kind of looking on.
That's
it seems right at the beginning. I'd say there was probably about 5 to 10 people. Now there's maybe 60 or more people that are just standing out there and just onlooking to the situation, being onlookers to what investigators are doing.
This case has captivated the public, whether you live in the city of Birmingham, whether you live in Shelby County, whether you live in Hoover, Mountain Brook. I mean, everyone has kids. And when you look at that innocent face of Kamille McKinney and that smile, how can you not, care? How can you not, want to know and find out as soon as possible that she's brought home safely? Appears that there's somebody being escorted there by one of the homicide detectives. Not sure if that's a family member or somebody connected somehow with the police department. It's a volunteer, from what we understand, on the scene trying to help police in this effort to locate Cupcake McKinney as fast and safely as possible.
And we don't know these conversations that are going on, but we're just trying to get different vantage points of the scene to figure out exactly, to give you a viewpoint of where police are and who they're talking to right now. Those conversations come a little bit later when the police department, the public information officers update us of what information they do want to share with the public. Sometimes that information is limited. It's not a good idea to share every piece of information with the public, with us in general. So
because the only people that would know the intimate details in that situation would be those involved. So when they're investigating and they call somebody, or somebody calls in and says, well, I know something, if you've already given out all your information in an investigation to the public, well, then anybody would know that. So that tip, it's harder to determine whether that tip is credible. If you keep, all the information and facts close to your vest as an investigator, when you do get a tip and they know things that only the people in the inner circle of the investigation know, it's a truer sign of how legitimate that tip is. A huge crowd of folks there from the public that have shown up to try to get the very latest on this attempt to locate Kamille Mckinney. There's the apartment complex that we've been referencing all morning since they arrived somewhere around 10 o'clock this morning. This is Jefferson Avenue Southwest again. This is southwest of the Crossplex, that part of 5 Points West Birmingham, and about 21 minutes away from the location where she disappeared on Saturday night, the Tom Brown Village housing complex, the birthday party where she vanished at 8:30 on Saturday. This is 21 minutes southwest of there. And they responded to this scene based on a tip, according to Sergeant Johnny Williams, based on a tip around 10 o'clock this morning.
We do want to tell you, if you have a tip as well, you can call Crime Stoppers. We can put that number on your screen. And even if you want to leave an anonymous tip, you can do that. 205-254-7777 is one number that you can call for Crime Stoppers. Do not clog those lines either with things that are not true. Of course, most people wouldn't do that, but we have to put that out there because that just distracts from the investigation.
But if, no matter how small you think that tip is, it could be the key to cracking this case.
And that is true. It takes a puzzle piece sometimes to put all the little details together. If you've thought that you have seen her, if you thought that you had seen that SUV at one point or another, had taken video, were in that location, maybe you heard something at that time, please do call Crime Stoppers. Those numbers on your screen.
And the other number is a separate tip line that created just for this case. It's 205-297-8413. There is a reward available in this case. The governor's office, Kay Ivey, did announce yesterday, confirmed that a $5,000 reward is available for information that leads to Kamille McKinney's safe return and a conviction for her abduction. There's an additional $1,000 that an anonymous private citizen offered as well, so a combined $6,000 in a reward for information that could help solve this case.
And this is something, again, that we're all focusing on. You don't hear about Amber Alerts all the time. It was issued about 3.5 hours after her abduction on Saturday night. The Alabama law enforcement agency at that time issued the Amber Alert, which was about midnight on Saturday.
I think so.
In her abduction. Of course, they hit the ground running really on Sunday, and they were going door to door. They were putting up signs with her pictures on it. They were looking into any leads to start really kick off that investigation. They've been hitting the ground running ever since. We did speak to Jack Owen, a retired FBI agent, earlier, and he says he has complete confidence with the Birmingham Police Department and our local agencies in how they are conducting this search. He says they are very thorough and they are doing what they need to do to find the results and to find a solution and to find 3-year-old Kamille Cupcake Mckinney.
And it's a regional response. It's not just the city of Birmingham. I heard there's a task force that involves officers from other jurisdictions, including Vestavia Hills. We also, like you said, the FBI is involved, the U.S. Marshals, they have special abilities there to track folks. And also Jefferson County Sheriff's Office, they're utilizing their helicopter in the sky. They've been out there all morning long trying to see if they can give a bird's eye view perspective and account to the crews on the ground.
We haven't seen the helicopter in quite some time, but just not too long ago, I still heard it overhead.
Yeah, I did. Of course, we don't hear any sound right now, so it could be flying above, and we just don't know. And we've shown it a couple of times already this morning. But again, we did get it confirmed with the Sergeant Johnny Williams with Birmingham Police that they are pursuing one of many credible leads and tips in this case. This is not the first one. They've gone after several. Whether they've gone to this extent or used this much force, we do not know. But this one is pretty extensive. They've got at least, I'd say, 2 to 3 dozen officers there on the scene. We noticed some of those officers earlier had bulletproof vests on, like those gentlemen there. And helmets, and one of them was carrying a handheld battering ram as well. So we do not know if they've already breached the location they were targeting. They walked towards a general location, I'd say about an hour ago, maybe an hour and 15 minutes ago now. And we don't know if those are the gentlemen that we saw walking in that direction and have now returned after exhausting all search efforts there. What they've discovered, what they haven't discovered, will probably be briefed by Sergeant Williams. I'm sure he's on the scene. He's usually there pretty quickly on what they found in this case.
And we did have confirmation. My producer just said that they did see them, did see him on the scene earlier, along with a ton of different agencies there. We do know a lot of agencies are assisting with this search effort, including the FBI, the U.S. Marshal's Office, ALEA, Jefferson County Emergency Management Agency, and several different sheriff's offices too. The Jefferson County Sheriff's Office had the helicopter.
Yes, they did. Yeah. We weren't sure if it was ALEA or Jefferson County, but we got a tighter shot of it and it said Jefferson County on the side of it. So that's a new tool that the county bought just a couple of years ago to using situations just like this. Has the technology, they can spot somebody at night through the heat technology. You can sense their body heat if they run through the woods. We've shown video of some of the captures of fugitives using that technology. Of course, that wouldn't necessarily be necessary today because the sun is out, but if somebody needs to run from this location into the woods, it would come in handy.
But that's likely a reason why, and again, we're presuming as we're watching this too, but they blocked off the whole area, so they're covering all of their bases with whatever they're looking for. They blocked off the streets in this area. They have viewpoints from overhead and all points of the ground. Not necessarily that everybody is at that exact little location where they're looking, but we have law enforcement that's standing all around that area.
We also have WVTM 13's Mary O'Connell. She was our first reporter to arrive on the scene. Mary, have you learned anything new?
Hey, John, we're just like everybody else. We're waiting for that information. When I last checked in with Birmingham Police Sergeant Johnny Williams, he told me that they are letting their officers search this area, perform a search regarding the McKinney case, and we've all kind of gathered in this section over here directed towards the apartment complex. We know family of McKinney is on scene here. We've been here for almost 2 hours now trying to figure out exactly what this tip may be. Of course, they've gotten dozens of tips in regards to this case, and this is one that they're taking very seriously. I know that you were talking not too long ago about that helicopter. It is still flying overhead here. It's with the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office. I'll step out of the way so you can see again what we are seeing. There's a fairly large presence now here in the middle of the street here on Jefferson Avenue Southwest. We're at the cross street of 28th Street Southwest. Again, when I reached out to Birmingham Police to see if they had an update, they last told me that they're just allowing their officers to perform a search of this area. This is all stemming from a tip that came in. They've gotten dozens of tips, but to show you that these tips are taken very seriously, this is a product of one of those tips. So if you know anything, if you've seen anything, make sure you let police know, you let the sheriff's office or even Crime Stoppers where you can remain anonymous. But I know you all have been talking. Make sure it is something worthwhile because you don't want to clog up those lines. But this is a product of a tip that they are taking very seriously, letting those officers perform a search of this area. There's family that we spoke to very briefly over here that they don't know what's going on. They are just waiting to kind of see what may happen here and come out of this. But there's also strangers who have just been gripped by this case, and they want, just as everybody wants to know here, good news. They want to hear good news from this case and know that Kamille Cupcake is okay and safe. We are waiting to hear from Birmingham Police. We hope to hear an update from them at some point. But again, we've been here for almost 2 hours now, just knowing that this is a tip stemming from that case. John, Brittany.
Well, thank you so much. Hey, real quick, Mary, I noticed there was some activity. You guys had to move the camera around earlier. Was there a sense that there was a development, or you guys were just trying to get a different angle?
We were trying to get a little bit of a different angle, but everybody sort of started to shift this way, so we figured we'll shift with everybody to see if we can see anything else. And it does seem like there has been some police presence that shifted towards this apartment complex, so we decided to see if there was anything new that we could see at this point, so that's kind of why we moved.
I saw a number of officers walk towards that apartment complex about an hour and a half ago. Have you seen anybody return that might have been a part of that group?
I haven't. I know there was some sort of a SWAT team or special unit that when we first got on the scene about 10:15 that we saw walk towards the apartment complex or behind the apartment complex. Unless they have shed their gear, we haven't seen them come back or out or from behind this complex here. But it seems like there's more officers out in front of the complex here on Jefferson Avenue, and it seems like more people have gathered here as well on the other side of the police tape where we are. I'd say there's probably a couple dozen people that have gathered here just waiting for some news on where Cupcake might be.
You may not know the answer to this, Mary, but we saw a lot of onlookers and people in the community standing by. Are those people that live inside of that apartment building, are they having people leave that area, or are those just people kind of coming out to see what's going on?
It seems like it's more people who are just in the area trying to see what's going on. I've talked to a couple people who are waiting on this side of the police tape with me, and they've said that they're not family, but they are. They're not family, but they're here to. Sorry, I'm being motioned this way a little bit. They're not family, but they're here just to kind of see what this scene is and what's going on. But of course, we do have family here as well at this time.
All right, Mary, thank you so much for joining us. We know that you're kind of moving around there. We'll check back in with you in just a few moments.
It's a very fluid scene. We also have retired FBI agent, Special Agent Jack Owens, on the phone again. Jack, this thing is dragging out a little bit. I think they arrived on the scene. We don't know an exact time, maybe 10:15, maybe 9:45. And now we're approaching the noon hour here. Any reason for concern that this is taking as long as it is?
I think we should be very careful about this. I've been waiting to see whether Birmingham PD or the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office will make a dynamic entry with their SWAT teams. The fact that hasn't happened, at least I don't know that if it's happened, means we have more than those two people of interest involved, perhaps two people more than the two we already have in custody. So we want to do backgrounds on those people to see if they're armed and dangerous or have committed violent acts before. The SWAT team's going to be very careful before they make a dynamic entry.
Obviously, yeah, they want to collect as much intel as they can. They don't want to, go in blind, knowing what kind of individuals they're dealing with.
Yeah.
I don't know how closely you've been watching. Any other observations?
I have watched the helicopter from my residence on top of Red Mountain. I keep watching the helicopter and listening to local news, which the coverage is terrific. I'm waiting for dynamic entry by the SWAT teams, and we haven't had that yet, so they're holding back for some reason. It's got to be to collect more intelligence. They may think that they have the place, they may have Cupcake in the area, and they may feel confident that they're not going to take her out of that area, so they want to collect intelligence about the other two people or one person who's holding. We have more than two people involved now. The other two, the original people of interest, are in custody.
Yeah, I think that question was asked, Jack, of Police Chief Patrick Smith yesterday. They feel there were additional people involved, and he said yes. I mean, because obviously they had not found her, and these two individuals that are persons of interest, not specifically charged with her disappearance, are in custody. So that was pretty much his conclusion yesterday at that press conference. And the helicopter you mentioned, how crucial is that tool in this situation?
The helicopter is invaluable. You can see so much of the neighborhood. I've been drawn to the helicopter myself, just physically watching it hover. I noticed in recent minutes it's up higher than it was. I don't know what to make of that. I'm just sitting here as a former SWAT team member who worked with Birmingham and with Jefferson County. I'm waiting for the dynamic entry to happen. It hasn't happened yet.
Now, can you see them actually preparing or doing things to make that entry? Can you predict what's going on in their minds, or are they standing all together at this point?
I wish I could. As 30 years in law enforcement, I am stewing in my own juices.
Yeah.
That's what happens to you on a scene like this, and that's what law enforcement does. They stew in their own juices. Nothing happens, and then everything happens at once, and you got to be ready for that. And the good news is these units train together. They train together. SWAT teams cross-pollinate and train with each other. We know how to what each other's strengths are, and we can use those strengths to good effect to get Cupcake back.
Jack, once they make the dynamic entry, of course, we can't see where they are specifically right now. Once they make it, how soon would we know that they've made it?
I think you'll hear it. There'll be flashbangs.
Okay.
The grenade light sound.
I got you. I've heard those before. I was on the scene of a standoff in Birmingham a couple of years ago, and I remember hearing those while I was live on the air. And you could, yeah, they weren't gunshots. They have a different sound to them.
Oh, it's a very different sound. I was in 2 major prison riots that we saw. We got both in Atlanta and
You were at the Atlanta one? My dad was at the Atlanta one when he was in the FBI.
Yes, we were all over there, weren't we?
Yeah.
That took us 2 weeks.
Yep, I remember those days.
Some really great work by the Atlanta PD and the Atlanta FBI.
Jack, would you be able to explain to us exactly what a dynamic entry entails?
It would be, you've already seen on television the equipment to knock a door down. As soon as you knock the door down, almost instantaneous with doing that, you throw the flashbangs in and you go in quick. We trained for this in tire houses, T-I-R-E, tire houses over at Fort McClellan when I was an agent, and you train with live ammunition to do these dynamic entries. You're very, very careful. We know each other, how each other operates. Teams are integrated and cross-pollinate to make this work effectively. Birmingham PD has an excellent tactical team. I'm sitting here thinking, well, Birmingham PD will make the dynamic entry, and I feel confident that they're going to do it exactly the way it should be done.
Now, you said you did investigate or involved with some kidnapping cases when you were with the Bureau, Jack. Were those in Birmingham or elsewhere?
They were in the Birmingham area.
Okay, and I don't
had a year in Denver and 29 years in Birmingham.
Okay. The cases in Birmingham, I don't want you to spill any confidential information, but did you, the kidnappings that you covered, did any of them not end like this, but did you have a situation like this and those cases where you knew where the child was and that you had to surround the location?
Yes, we had those, and usually they end quickly. The people who commit these crimes are evil people, are not very smart, thank goodness, and they don't plan enough. They can't possibly plan ahead of us, ahead of Birmingham PD. The Birmingham PD is going to be ahead of them in what happens. And once you get a location, which I hope we have, then the PD is going to win once we get that location. And just having the helicopter flying above, you can see everything up there, and you can see it very well.
We don't exactly know who is inside this apartment complex right now, whether Kamille is actually in there, if there are officers inside there, as you mentioned, about to make that dynamic entry. But just knowing what's going on at the scene right now, that we have blocked off certain areas, that we have that helicopter and the resources on the ground, can we guess that this might be a scenario that needs to be a dynamic entry?
Yes. That's my feeling, although I don't know any more than you know.
Right.
But just my training and my 30 years of experience, I think the fact that they've held off means they have some really good intelligence information, and they don't want to endanger Cupcake. Otherwise, they would have done it right away.
Right.
That's what I was going to ask you, Jack. I mean, we've been on the air since about, I guess, 10:30 this morning, so we're looking at an hour and a half now. They were probably there before, several minutes before that. The fact that they haven't already come out and said, yeah, we've checked it out, there's no one here, does that indicate to you that they believe, there's a stronger belief that she is here or somebody involved in the case is where they're targeting?
Yes. I have had this gut reaction, and police have real good gut reaction. My feeling has been that she's here, that she wasn't taken anywhere. I'm relieved by that because I know the quality of people we have looking for her. I hate to think of her. I hate the thought that she's in another state where we have to rely on others. There are really good police departments all over the Southeast. We can rely on them. I just hope she's here because I know the quality of the people looking for her.
And how about the parents? We know that the father, at least, and the grandmother on that scene right now. How much information do the police actually give them at a scene like this with a tip that comes in?
I think they bring immediate relatives in close to the vest to get all the information possible. You know, I have mentioned on the air since this happened that in case of a kidnapping, we need to have particulars on our children, all of our children, in terms of fingerprinting them and having for the police list of the scars, birthmarks on the children, any other information that will quickly identify them. I also want to know as much as possible about these new people. We want good intelligence on who these people are. What are they doing here? And how do they tie into the two persons of interest who have been arrested? I'm only speculating, but I really would like to know, like you, I know you want to know, too. Our city has one heartbeat now, and it's to rescue Cupcake.
Jack, we really appreciate your perspective and your 3 decades of service with the FBI. We'll be in touch, and if you hear anything, please let us know.
Thank
you so much. Thank you for calling.
We appreciate you.
All right, bye-bye.
Again, that was Jack Owens, retired special agent with the FBI, offering his perspective and his thoughts on what we are just witnessing and waiting there on Jefferson Avenue Southwest in Birmingham. Again, just to give you a location, a better locator on where this is taking place. It's southwest Birmingham. This is southwest of the 5 Points West community there in Birmingham. That's where the Crossplex is located. So west of Birmingham, west of downtown Birmingham, about a 21-minute drive from North Avondale, which is where Kamille McKinney was taken Saturday night around 8:30 at a birthday party at the Tom Brown Village Housing Complex. So some tip that came in this morning, somewhere between 8, 9, 10 o'clock, had forced the Birmingham Police Department to organize several resources. They are coordinating with other agencies as well, including the FBI and the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office and the Marshal's Office on this location. They have enough information that they felt warranted this kind of use of force.
And you may be wondering, why we've been just sitting here at this location for a couple of hours now, but I think it was such an interesting perspective to hear from retired FBI agent Jack Owens about what may be going on. He knows as much as we do watching this perspective, but what may be going on from that point of view, waiting possibly with the SWAT teams to go into a certain location to make sure if Kamille is at that location that she is safe, and when the proper time is, the safe time is to make entry, if that indeed is what they're doing. He spoke about how invaluable it is to have a helicopter going overhead to be able to see the scope of the neighborhood and what's around. So they're really at all angles here. And if we're looking live, and you can see in the backdrop every couple of moments an officer walk to, it looks like the backyard area or maybe behind that apartment complex. So this is ongoing right now. We've been staying stagnant. We see more officers arriving on scene. So this is just becoming, more of a scene. Everyone is, kind of a hurry up and wait type of scenario for what's happening. A lot of people, community members that are gathering around watching as we're doing right now too, but this is ongoing.
It's so hard to tell you, the public, what's going on by watching this from 150 yards away. But I will say, based on the 2 vantage points now that I have them memorized, we've been on the air a while, that I think that that fence you see there, that's the fence that both Kamille McKinney's grandmother and father walked behind about 20 or 30 minutes ago. So you were just bringing up that fact with Jack, the retired FBI agent. Do they often bring family members close? I think they were brought closer to where the focus of this mission is, the scene is, to maybe give them information, give them intel on either Kamille or maybe some family members or other individuals that could potentially be involved in all this. So, because they would have as much information as anyone else would, so they bring them closer to the target of this scene. We
had mentioned in the past that charges had been filed against 2 persons of interest. They were charged in unrelated. For unrelated.
Patrick Stallworth was the individual, I believe, that was in the picture, the surveillance picture that they identified as a person of interest. And then a Derek Brown. Patrick Stallworth was charged with unrelated counts of child pornography, according to Chief Patrick Smith. There was some material found on his personal cell phone unrelated to Kamille McKinney. And then the other individual, Derek Brown, she was charged with a bond violation connected to a previous kidnapping case last year. No relation to the McKinney case. She was accused of kidnapping her own children that she didn't have custody of. So that was a custodial kidnapping that she was charged in. That case is still pending, and they charged her with a bond violation. Now, the two of them, I believe, were brought into custody on Sunday, and by law, based on all the stories that I've covered over the years,
48 hours.
You can hold someone for 48 hours,
Right.
or you have to charge them. So they charge them with these unrelated counts, so they're able to hold them for information and try to help bring McKinney home.
But we were saying, speaking with retired FBI agent Jack Owens, that in addition, there's likely more people involved, which we're seeing here today. This possibly indicating.
Well, obviously, they haven't found her yet, so she's with someone. So
Right.
that someone is who they're targeting, whether it's one person or two people. That remains to be seen, and it's interesting to hear him say they want to know everything they can about the individuals that may be holding Kamille McKinney right now, maybe at this location. And so they don't want to rush in if they don't know how dangerous and how much of a risk they're running into. And so they want to do background checks, see if they have any violent crimes in their history, which is pretty easy to look up if you have a name and maybe a date of birth. So, but without, some of those details, they're kind of they're just going blind. So that may be one reason why it's taking them the time it is to exhaust this search.
This beautiful little girl, 3-year-old Kamille Cupcake Mckinney, they call her, was last seen wearing a leopard Minnie Mouse shirt and a pair of shorts. She had different color bows in her hair.
Yeah.
She had little shoes on that were left in the parking lot after she was taken on Saturday. And right now, again, they are still continuing.
These are some new vehicles that are just arriving on the scene there on Jefferson Avenue Southwest. That van, of obviously not knowing what it contains, some equipment technology that will help them process the scene, or we don't know. We don't know what's inside.
Really interesting,
and it's being escorted by that other patrol unit, that Ford Explorer pulling up behind it.
I mean, they've been here for over 2 hours now, and it has become more active as we carry on. So let's see who gets out of this van. It looks like officers in full gear, possibly a SWAT team unit coming out.
Yeah, we already had at least 24 officers on the scene from earlier. We saw a number of gentlemen going in about 10:15 this morning. We're not sure if they've already come out, if they found anything, but these are additional resources that are arriving on the scene. So obviously, this scene is not resolved. We are waiting a word. I think I see Johnny Williams there. That may not be him. It's hard to tell from this far away. He is the spokesperson for Birmingham Police, but when he arrives on these scenes, he's always good to getting the latest information to relate to us. But we don't want to give out too much. We don't want to say what's happening next. We want to just find out when it happens, after it happens, and then relay to you whether or not they found Kamille McKinney safely.
But this possibly goes toward the theory that retired FBI agent Jack Owens had about that dynamic entry with going in there with full gear and waiting to that right moment. He mentioned, putting a door down and flashbangs and all the thing that goes along with it, waiting for that right time and getting ready and kind of being on standby. He was saying that in his gut, he thinks that they are waiting and anticipating for the entry to happen.
Yeah, and now we're looking at 2 hours at least. We were, I think, arriving on the scene about 10:15, 10:20. The scene had been going on for a few minutes before that, so we're probably beyond 2 hours that these officers have arrived and are targeting a certain location, a certain address on Jefferson Avenue Southwest, in an apartment complex on the south side of the road. We've got a camera on each end of this scene. This is looking east on Jefferson Avenue Southwest from the Steiner Avenue location where Todd Eagle and Jeff Elizoff are. And on the other end, you can see the gentleman in the bright blue golf shirt. That is Mel Stevens, one of our other photographers there as well. He's been there all morning with Mary O'Connell and Blake Brady on that end of the scene. They're closer to the actual apartment complex where we've seen most of the activity. And it's a wait and see. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know when it's going to happen. We'll find out from the police department spokesperson Johnny Williams when he comes out at some point, whether that's in 5 minutes or 45 minutes. We'll just wait to see. But very tense situation, a lot of waiting. We've got multiple members of McKinney's family that have shown up there as well. Her father, Dominic McKinney, is there, and I believe her grandmother. We saw her as well walking in towards the left there on that behind that fence. So Yeah, boy, I tell you.
I kind of wonder too, the people that are standing in there, do they live in that apartment area? I'm kind of wondering why they aren't removed from that place.
I don't know if it depends on how far away I would assume the unit is or the home is that they're targeting. I mean, if they're far enough away and they live in that apartment complex, as long as they're not impeding the mission, then they're allowed to stay where they are unless the police department believes they're at risk or in danger. If that's where they live, that's their home, they can stay. And obviously
Right.
they haven't been evacuated, so, but we don't know how far back. We don't know if we're talking 50 feet behind
Sure.
that location or 100 feet or what.
This is very true. We appreciate you joining us here this afternoon. Now, we've been on since a little bit after 10 o'clock, and we see a very active scene on Jefferson Avenue right now. We have a couple of crews there at the scene. I think at least 3 photographers. We have WVTM 13's Mary O'Connell there and Jeff Eliasoff standing at all angles, making sure that we bring you the latest information on the search for 3-year-old Kamille Cupcake Mckinney that was abducted at a birthday party in Birmingham in the Tom Brown Village apartment public housing area, on Saturday night right around 8:30. We don't know the details of this tip that has come in today, but we do know that this is one they are taking very seriously. They have a ton of different agencies on standby here at the scene to look into this investigation,
including a helicopter from the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office that's been hovering above for the last hour or so, giving them a bird's eye view of what's going on below. So in case somebody tries to flee from the scene, they'll be able to follow them, and they have the technology on that helicopter to spot them even if they're in the woods or under those trees to the left there. They can still find them and they won't get far if in fact they do locate someone connected to the disappearance of Kamille Mckinney.
and we are getting a viewpoint from,
This is looking west. This is looking west, and this is Mel Stevens' camera. That apartment complex is on the south side of Jefferson Avenue Southwest. This location is, like I said, about 20 minutes away from where she disappeared on Saturday. This is southwest Birmingham, south of the Crossplex, south of 5 Points West. And she was taken from North Avondale, which, if you're familiar with the Avondale community, that's east of downtown Birmingham. So this is basically 21 minutes from there. And, you know, Sergeant Johnny Williams, all he could tell us earlier is that they have a credible tip, that they've had multiple tips that they've pursued, they've checked out. This is just the latest of several leads that they've targeted. They have a number of officers on the scene searching for Kamille Mckinney and anybody that could be connected to her disappearance. A lot of folks standing around waiting for what will happen next. We have not seen a lot of folks returning from that location. And we again, you can see folks walking in there, but we've had additional officers arrive in the last couple of minutes, and you know, we're just, it's again, it's strategic. They have to decide when's the right time to perhaps make a dynamic entry, according to Jack Owens, the retired FBI agent that we spoke with on the phone a few minutes ago. And whether or not they've discovered that the target of this tip is in fact at this location. One would assume that if you know, they received a tip about an individual at this location, 2.5 hours in, they would know whether somebody was there or not.
Right.
Whether, you know, Kamille is there, we don't know. And there you see more folks walking in the direction of several of the other individuals from earlier.
Very active.
And we're going
scene.
back and forth, so you see somebody walking to the right, see somebody walking to the left. That's because these cameras from two different vantage points. One's looking west, one's looking east. And we're just waiting for, hopefully, to see Kamille Mckinney being carried by her family, walking from left to right. That would be back from the location where we've seen a lot of officers walk towards.
Everyone is praying for a safe return for this little girl that, you know, vanished on Saturday night. We see a lot of people there at the scene right now, moving in closer to a certain location. We don't know the exact area, but we see this is becoming a very active scene. We've been here for 2 hours now, and I say this is the most action that we've seen so far this morning.
Yeah, and I know that, you know, the police department initially on Sunday morning was very, very concerned about this from the get-go, and they were calling this a stranger abduction case. You don't hear that very often in Birmingham. The deputy chief, Scott Prater, that pretty much emceed or anchored that press conference on Sunday morning, said we see custodial kidnappings, but we don't see stranger kidnappings or abductions very often in Birmingham at all. So they're very concerned. To see him hold her picture up at a press conference, and you could see the concern in his eyes, meant they were taking this case very, very seriously. As they've held multiple press conferences since then, both with the police chief, Patrick Smith, and Mayor Randall Woodfin this week. The governor's office has even stepped in, offering a $5,000 reward in this case. An additional anonymous resident has offered another $1,000 reward, so combined $6,000 for information leading to the safe recovery of Kamille Mckinney and a conviction of her abductors. Now, we've got some phone numbers we want to throw back up on the screen. If you're watching this for the first time and maybe you think you've seen Kamille Mckinney over the last 4 days, there are the numbers. Crime Stoppers number first, 205-254-7777, or the tip line that they opened specifically for this case earlier this week is 205-297-8413. So a number of vehicles on the scene, number of officers on the scene that have been there since 10 o'clock this morning, and now we're entering the third hour of this, what looks like a standoff.
And we see a lot of officers that are standing there in the street. You see a lot of them in groups talking to each other. I saw one detective earlier kind of pointing at a couple of different locations, probably explaining to those just arriving on scene exactly what is going on there and how they are going to execute whatever it is that they're doing this afternoon at this point to complete this or to go through with this investigation. A lot of people standing in the background. You see behind that
dozens of people that
yellow
have shown up.
caution tape, and that crowd has been growing and growing. It started with maybe about a dozen people around a little after 10 o'clock this morning, and now we see just a ton of people that are on standby waiting to see what exactly is going to happen this morning.
Yeah, and you take a look at that brown fence, and now we're looking east, and the apartment complex is to the right. It looks like the officers have been targeting and focusing their attention on, their energy on. That fence is the fence that I noticed earlier the grandmother and Dominic McKinney walked towards to the right. So it seems like that's where they're focusing their energy and hopefully trying to just target,
The place
what they can
that
find
need to
in
be,
that
right.
specific location they received the tip about.
And we do, again, have Mary O'Connell and Jeff Eliasoff that are standing back there as well, so they're getting different vantage points, and they're kind of taking everything in from their perspective, too. They've been talking to community members and observing. Jeff said that he saw some people there weeping with signs earlier on saying, let her go or bring her home safely to her family. So this is the whole community, the whole city of Birmingham, the whole county, the whole state that's rallying behind this family to bring this little 3-year-old baby girl home safely. We've seen pictures of her earlier, and she's just so beautiful. And the story is so scary so far, knowing that she was at a birthday party and was taken from that situation. So everybody is hoping, praying, and working very hard now to make sure she does get home safely.
Dozens of volunteers have gone door to door with flyers, pictures of her, trying to ask folks, have you seen her? Have you seen her? Any small nugget of information could be the key to cracking this case. We've had vigils for her, multiple, like I mentioned, press conferences. The father, Dominic McKinney, has spoken about her disappearance, just talked about how much she means to him and the origin of her name, Cupcake, when she was born. That she was so adorable that she looked like a cupcake. And so that was it, and the name stuck.
Think as a parent too what that means and what it would mean for you if this was happening to you. Nobody thinks that this could happen to them. Let's get out to WVTM 13's Jeff Eliasoff. He's been there for some time now. Jeff, can you explain what the vibe is, what the emotions, and what is going on here right now? I see a lot of people looking in one certain direction.
Well, I'm some distance away as well. You can see from our vantage point, we're doing our very best to keep our distance for a number of reasons. There have been alternate groups of people who have let out cheers, but I don't want to get ahead of ourselves here. That's the vibe here now. A lot of people seem to feel that we're close to a resolution here, but I'm certainly not going to provide any false hope. We have had no confirmation from the police here. There has been some activity of the last 2 or 3 minutes that would indicate there was either going to be an entry, as our FBI agent indicated, or just a precautionary move. And the last thing we want to do also is to tip anybody's hand. but there has been, I think the vibe is a good word here, there has been a noticeable uptick in people's moods here. Some folks may be on cell phones and the like, talking to people who may have seen something. But we have got very good trained observers and good photographers here. The second we see anything, we, of course, will show it to you. As I'm thinking here, there is a teaching moment, I think, for everybody, every parent. God forbid this ever happens to your child. But one of the things we were talking about earlier was the Amber Alert and how effective that has been over the years. I covered the actual Amber Hagerman case way back when in 1996 in Dallas and Fort Worth. And back then there wasn't the kind of adequate activity that we've seen, statewide notifications that there are today. That's resulted in the safe return of thousands of missing and abducted people. So we hope that this is one of those cases today. One of the things that the police chief was saying that on Saturday night when this child was abducted, it was about 8:30, and is very often the case, as is often the case, the family tries to solve the problem themselves. They shout out for the child. In this case, they were shouting for Kamille. But a long time went between when they notified police and when they began their search. And when Amber Alerts are most effective, you have trained police officers, the likes of which you see out here, who will form a grid search in the area and are able to comb very, very rapidly wherever this problem may be over a course of many, many miles. So when and if we have another situation like this, parents do keep in mind, if you can't find your child really right away within a matter of minutes, call the police department in your jurisdiction as fast as you can. On the subject of police, we have a number of officers who have moved closer to us here. We have vested folks who may be part of a SWAT operation, but again, they're standing here, and there doesn't appear to be any major activity. The helicopter that we saw some time ago has retreated, so it could be the indication of almost anything, but we do know that there are a number of law enforcement officers who have been here for these 2.5 hours who have not gone anywhere. Once again, for those of you watching online or at home, you'll have the best view that we can provide you without giving anything away about what law enforcement is doing. Clearly, this is a life and death matter, and the element of surprise may be in play, as the retired FBI agent was saying just a few moments ago. So this is the scene here, and as I say, the vibe has been mixed. We had a few cheers for whatever reason, and they've since ceased. But we continue to be the best source of eyes and ears for you here, and we will not speak about anything unless we have official word about a resolution. It does, however, appear that they have found a very, very hot location, as they like to say, that the intelligence here was solid, and that's why they've been here for the last 2.5 hours. John, Brittany?
All right, Jeff, thank you so much. Just in, we received word from Jamie Bryan, one of our other professional photographers at Birmingham Police Headquarters. He says people there at the Birmingham Police Headquarters on 1st Avenue North in Birmingham are celebrating. Now, what specifically that means, we don't know yet, but that's a positive sign, obviously.
That sure is, and Jeff was mentioning that he heard cheers there on the scene. Again, we don't know the details behind that, but as of right now, that sounds like good news. We are still observing from behind the hello tape as of right now, still of everything that's unfolding and what's going on. We see family members that have kind of walked back, still standing with officers, so they are likely getting some information about what exactly is going on at this time right now.
And we did see a woman just a minute ago wearing the ball cap, blonde hair. I believe that's Lakeisha Simpson. That would be Kamille's grandmother that we've interviewed. She was walking back away from the scene from earlier, and now that's a live shot of the Birmingham Police Headquarters. A number of people, about a dozen folks right there in the front entrance. So they received some information that calls them to celebrate. Again, we don't know what it is. We are shooting this video from across the street on 1st Avenue North in Birmingham. And but they are there wanting to know, get the very latest on the information on her whereabouts. And I know some folks, I think it was yesterday, the day before, there was a vigil held right there at the Birmingham Police Headquarters for her. And trying to find out. In fact, that's one of our interns right there.
It sure is. So many eyes are on this story. So many hearts are invested into this story, wanting 3-year-old Kamille Cupcake Mckinney to get home safely. So that's what we are all hoping for and praying for and watching for, hopefully that safe return. They had this tip that came in this morning. They brought in so many different agencies and resources, including helicopters, to be able to fully investigate this tip. So we are hoping for the best case scenario of her safe return. Again, we're trying to get all angles for you here so you can and we can fully understand what's going on. This is, again, outside of the police department in Birmingham, but also we have a few different angles for you at the location on Jefferson Avenue where they are investigating that tip that has come in today. And that scene has just really exploded, has become so active, especially within the past, I'd say, half hour.
Yeah, and then the fact that they no longer need, or it doesn't appear that they need the helicopter is a great sign, perhaps, at least, you know, providing some resolution at this scene. You never know if the helicopter needed to retreat for a refill of gasoline because it's been flying over this location for about 2.5 hours now. But the combination of the helicopter leaving the scene, cheers at the scene itself, and the celebration of these individuals in front of Birmingham Police Headquarters, they're in touch with people at the scene, I would assume, and so they've received some information that caused them to cheer. We also had someone walk over there, or one of our interns actually, and ask them questions. She might have some more details that on exactly what they're celebrating, what information they've received. And
not exactly sure who we're looking at standing outside of the police department, if it's family or friends that know this 3-year-old little girl, or if it's just onlookers or people that are standing by with hopes of good news for the outcome of this case right now. We're getting two separate angles for you. One is at that scene on the left of your screen of Jefferson Avenue, where we have a full look of the investigation of police and different agencies that are there right now. This is kind of a wider view. We're standing back a little bit.
Yeah.
You see people in the background, tons of people from the community that are just standing there waiting, like we are, to know exactly what's going on.
Again, this is Jefferson Avenue Southwest. This is looking east. The apartment complex, I say in question, we don't know exactly where they're targeting or what location address they've set up the operation in front of, but they've focused we've seen a lot of officers walking in that direction. This is the south side of that Jefferson Avenue, and this general location in Birmingham is southwest of 5 Points West, which is where the Crossplex is located, and like we've said, about 20 minutes away from where Kamille Cupcake Mckinney disappeared on Saturday night in the North Avondale community.
I do want to check in right now with WVTM 13's Mary O'Connell, who is at that scene. She's been there for a couple of hours now. Mary, have you had any word about what is going on there right now?
Brittany and John, I just heard back from Birmingham Police Sergeant Johnny Williams. To my question, has Kamille been found? He just told me they are still searching. We have heard lots of eruption of cheers from people, the dozens of people who have gathered here, and for the people who are watching, Birmingham police say that she has not been found yet, and they are still searching. Of course, we are all hoping and want to cheer with the people out here who are hoping that she has been found, but from police and from what I'm being told, they are still searching for Cupcake at this time. We do see Birmingham Fire and Rescue is on scene here, and not too long ago, I'd say about a half hour to 45 minutes ago, it appeared another kind of a SWAT team pulled up and went into the apartment complex that's off to my left over here, and now people have all gathered in this area, general area where they were once out in the street here, and they've all gathered here now, hoping that we hear good news and we hear good news soon. But from what I've heard from Birmingham police, they are still searching, and there has been no one found at this time. John, Brittany.
Hey, Mary, thank you so much. Again, I was going to ask you a quick question before you go. Dominic McKinney, the dad, have you noticed him over the last 15, 20 minutes? I haven't seen him. He walked in that direction by that fence.
Yeah, he was standing there earlier for a while.
I actually have not seen him. You guys might be able to see through the camera lens a little bit closer than from what I have seen. I know he and his family are here. I talked to the grandma of Cupcake not too long ago, or earlier I should say, when I got on scene. I know she was here at one point. It looks like a SWAT team is now coming out of the complex and maybe moving to another unit. But to your question, no, I have not personally seen him here, although I do know he was here at one point.
Yeah, like you're saying, Mary, we do see a number of SWAT members making their way to a different location. So, like confirming what Sergeant Williams told you, the search continues. So, you know, this specific group of gentlemen there, I believe they're all, I assume they're all gentlemen, they look like gentlemen, are going from door to door perhaps, or maybe finding a different vantage point of a specific location. It's hard to tell.
Mary, have you talked to anybody in the community that are standing behind that yellow tape?
Many people have come up to us asking if anyone has been found. Again, we reiterate from what we have heard from Birmingham police, no one's been found at this point. We are hearing sirens of sorts behind us now. The helicopter left us a little while ago, but from the people who are here, they're not only family, but they're just people of the community who are all hoping for good news, because as we have said, this is a story that has really gripped this entire state, not just this community. We're being asked now to shift to the side because a Birmingham fire truck is actually pulling up. It's just coming down the road here. So if we're shifting a little bit, that's why.
No, go ahead, Mary, that's fine.
We understand it's an active scene right now, and since you've been there, Mary, for the last
you can see
couple of hours.
This is the one end of where we're at over here. You can see that fire truck is coming up right now, and that is Battalion Chief Sebastian Carrillo, who is walking up to it. Okay. We've spoken to him many times in the past. We don't know to what they are here for, but they just arrived on scene.
All right, Mary, as the crowd somewhat thinned out behind you there, it looks, it's hard to tell. I mean, the same number of folks that have been there for the last couple hours, or has it grown or decreased?
I'd say it's grown. It may look like it's thinned out, but actually a lot of them are over to the right of me. They're kind of as close as they can get to the apartment complex without crossing that police tape. But there's still, I'd say, several dozen people who are on scene here at this time. You can see the fire truck is pulling up right now, and they broke the tape just to let it through.
Mary, can you talk about how much the scene has changed since you got there at 10 o'clock? So many more different law enforcement agencies have come to the scene. What has the energy been like throughout this process?
We still have a lot of questions, but it's changed from questions to we've had somber moments out here. We've had people cheering out here. We've had a lot of activity in the last 30 minutes between a SWAT team showing up, and we can hear more sirens. Birmingham fire truck showing up here. Now people just seem to be anxious in a sense, hoping for good news and that someone may have been found.
And again, the fire truck that's arriving there on the scene has no way to know for sure specifically why it's there, probably to provide some sort of medical support for whatever operation may or may not take place over the next few moments. And you said that there's an additional fire truck also arriving, Mary?
I can hear sirens off in the distance. I don't know if it's an ambulance,
Okay.
a rescue unit, another truck, but I can hear it off in the distance.
Okay. All right, Mary, thank you so much. Again, this scene started unfolding around 10 o'clock this morning. Sergeant Johnny Williams confirmed to us that they had a credible threat, a credible tip, actually, lead that they responded to this location on Jefferson Avenue Southwest around 10:15, perhaps one of many leads that they've pursued. There's the map right there, Jefferson Avenue. This location is about 5 or 10 minutes southwest of Crossplex, 5 Points West, and about 20 minutes away from where Kamille Mckinney was taken Saturday night in the Northern Avondale community from the Tom Brown Village housing complex after a birthday party. Now, she was, according to police and investigators, lured into an SUV with candy by a male. And then later that weekend, that was Saturday night, into Sunday, they put out a bolo for a vague description of a Toyota SUV. And then Sunday evening, they found some video of a Sequoia. They recovered that Sequoia. And they also had a gentleman that they brought into custody as a person of interest based on a picture, and also a female. And then they charged those individuals yesterday with unrelated counts to this disappearance of Kamille Mckinney. We've got two individuals, Patrick Stallworth and Derek Brown. Patrick Stallworth was charged with child pornography, according to Chief Patrick Smith. They found some images on his phone that were not related to McKinney's disappearance at all, but they did charge him with that so they could continue to hold him as a person of interest in her disappearance. And then Derek Brown was another individual, female, that they charged with violating her bond conditions and an unrelated kidnapping case from 2018, where, according to prosecutors and investigators, she kidnapped her own children that she did not have legal custody of. That took place in 2018, so she was charged in a bond violation in that case that is still pending.
And those are persons of interest right now. They were holding them for 48 hours in order to be able to question them. No idea at this point if they are indeed involved with this case. But we do see right now at the scene, so many people in the community are coming here to watch what is unfolding here this morning for the past 2.5 hours or so. An ambulance has just arrived on scene. We're getting word of. There was a fire truck that just arrived there just moments ago that you're seeing here right now, and several agencies are here to look at this tip that came in today, to be a part of this investigation, because it does take a lot of heads and a lot of resources to come together in times like this to figure out the best way to approach what is going on. The FBI is involved, U.S. Marshal Service, the Jefferson County and Shelby County Sheriff's Office, fire departments. Aaliyah is here, and so many people on the scene. We don't know exactly what this tip was that came in, but what we do know, which is pretty apparent and obvious to all of us, is that it is being taken very seriously here today. So many people, we see armed officers, people in full gear at the scene. They've blocked off a good part of Jefferson Avenue with caution tape. Near the apartment complex nearby, we've seen several officers walking back and forth in different locations, checking out a certain area that we don't know exactly where it is right now. The family is standing nearby, and all of us have our eyes glued to the screen, wondering exactly how this is going to unfold today.
And again, we want to reset the scene for you. This is Jefferson Avenue Southwest in Southwest Birmingham. Birmingham Police spokesperson Johnny Williams told us earlier today they had received a tip that was connected to the disappearance of Kamille Cupcake Mckinney, possibly located at this location, or a tip that would lead them to finding her. So they've obviously not skipped any resources on their response. Dozens of law enforcement officers on the scene, some in uniform, some not. They've been looking, searching the general vicinity. There's an apartment complex on Jefferson Avenue. On the south side, they focused most of their attention on, based on what we can see from about 150 yards away. We have multiple crews on the scene in both directions. Again, like we've mentioned, this is on Jefferson Avenue, southwest Birmingham, probably about 10 minutes, 15 minutes southwest of downtown Birmingham. South also is from the Crossplex area, and about 21 minutes from the location in Northern Avondale, where Kamille was kidnapped, abducted, taken Saturday night at 8:30 at a birthday party at the Tom Brown Village housing complex. So again, this is seems like because they've now been at this for almost 3 hours, one of the, if not the hottest leads they've had since this investigation began late Saturday night. Now, there have been a number of Amber Alerts that have been issued for her safe recovery, one being late Saturday night. Now, she disappeared at 8:30, but apparently the family thought they could find her on their own. Not sure if maybe she was just with another family member or friend. You know, it's a birthday party. There are a lot of people there. And once they realized nobody knew where she was, that's when they contacted authorities. And that initial Amber Alert was issued. And then another one was expanded, basically. That same one was expanded outside the state of Alabama on Monday, I believe. Chief Patrick Smith announced that development.
But it was said during a press conference that there's no reason to believe that she wouldn't be still in the area. But of course, they're exhausting all their resources. Yes. They're really putting all the possibilities out there. There are 2 rewards that are being offered in this abduction. A $5,000 reward that was announced from the governor's office, and also an additional $1,000 reward. This is for information to help solve this case. So they're asking anybody with tips to come forward. We don't know who this tip or where this tip came from specifically, but you can see here that they are really thoroughly looking into everything that's being offered to them at this time to see what is credible and what should be looked into to make sure that they can come to a thorough and safe resolution for what's going on here.
Yeah, and dozens from the community that either live around this area or have heard about this case or been following this case have shown up on the scene, including the father of Kamille McKinney, Dominic McKinney, has been there from the beginning. I saw her grandmother as well on the scene. She initially walked towards where it looks like these officers are focusing their attention and has since come back. We also saw Dominic, the father, walk in that direction beyond that brown fence. Haven't seen him come back, but of course this is a very wide shot that we're looking at here from about 150 yards away. We've got two vantage points, one from the east side, one from the west side. This is looking west on Jefferson Avenue. The apartment complex in question is the one to the left. Again, we believe, we don't know, they're focusing their attention on the apartment complex, but there are some homes near the apartment complex based on my view of the satellite map just a few minutes ago. So they are continuing their searches. We've had additional SWAT team members show up in the last half hour. There were a number of officers that were there within probably a minute or two of us going on the air at right around 10:15, 10:30. But an hour and a half later, we saw additional resources show up. You see the fire truck there that just got on the scene along with an emergency response unit, just in case there is anyone that requires medical attention once this operation unfolds.
And retired FBI agent Jack Owens, we spoke to him earlier on the phone. He doesn't have exact insight. He's not talking to anyone, I believe, on the scene right now, but he knows similar situations like this, and he's kind of has gut feelings about what's going on. He said a dynamic entry that they're preparing for with SWAT teams at this time to get ready to go in. You have to make sure you're fully prepared, and if indeed Kamille McKinney is inside there, it needs to be a safe approach and the right tactics to be able to do this, as you mentioned, John, strategic. So they're getting all of their pieces into place right now, and you can see more and more just keep coming to the scene. Ambulances, fire trucks, we have different police cruisers here from the different agencies to make sure that everybody is where they need to be in training. I mean, this is what officers and first responders and special agents train for. Situations like this, to handle them in the right way, the most tactful way, to make sure it comes out to the way that they want it to.
And yeah, we were talking to Jack Owens. He actually was in Birmingham for almost 3 decades, and he investigated kidnapping cases in Birmingham. He's been a part of standoffs similar to this. He talked about the dynamic entry that he thought perhaps if they were extremely confident that maybe they could just go right in, but perhaps that it's taking a little bit longer. Now we're entering the 3rd hour here, almost the 4th hour, that they're doing all they can to know exactly what they're getting into, what individuals that they may be facing, whether those individuals have a criminal background and are violent. And so you don't want to just go in blindly, depending on where they are. They've obviously received a piece of information, a lead, a tip that believes or that warrants this kind of response. And they've been there now for almost 3 hours.
Right, they sure have. And they're talking about, they had those 2 people that were charged in unrelated instances that they were questioning and talking to, but this goes to show that there are more people that they are possibly looking into, at least different locations, that they're expanding their search for 3-year-old Kamille McKinney. She was last seen again on 41st Street North area at a birthday party. She was wearing a leopard shirt. Yeah. She had shorts on. She had little bows in her hair. Her shoes were left in the parking lot where she was taken, so possibly barefooted at this time that she was last seen. They did have surveillance photos or video from a gas station nearby that had one of those suspects at least on camera.
Yes, walking
of that
into the
vehicle
gas station. Yeah,
with
and
SUV.
that's that's one strong tip. And it wasn't very long after they released that photograph that people that lived next to Patrick Stallworth said, "I know that person," and so they called 911 immediately and some of the other tip lines. And it was not long after that they took Patrick Stallworth into custody as a person of interest. In this case, he has not been charged directly with Kamille McKinney's disappearance, and now we see the fire truck and the emergency response unit leaving. So their services look like are no longer necessary at this scene. That would be, I don't know, that would be a good sign if
right.
they're no longer required to be there.
They haven't been there too long right now.
They may be called to a different location too.
And that's true. they likely just want all the resources there on standby just in case whatever happens. But who knows, they might come back into this scene as well. You're getting two different vantage points. You saw them on the other side of the screen. Now you see them coming this way. We have Jeff Eliasoff standing on one end, Mary O'Connell standing at another end, just to show you all the different vantage points. And we appreciate you so much joining us here to watch this unfold with us. The more eyes on this story, the better, to get the word out, to make sure that if anybody sees something, they say something. You give in tips. Maybe you heard something. Maybe you know somebody that lives in that area that heard something on Saturday night, or that can offer information. Usually a criminal releases some type of information to somebody. So maybe you heard something. Yeah,
and I'm noticing a number of vehicles leaving too. A couple of police officer vehicles, look like some also private vehicles leaving the scene. We're not really sure what that's indicative of. But we've got a map to show you, to give you a better bird's eye view of where we're reporting on here. Jefferson Avenue, Southwest Birmingham. This is about 15 minutes from downtown Birmingham towards Midfield and Fairfield, that area, and about 20 minutes southwest from where Kamille Mckinney was kidnapped on Saturday night at 8:30. That location was in the Tom Brown Village Housing Authority village there in North Avondale. Two more units leaving the scene there, and there's a silver SUV that's been there from the very beginning. Don't know if they're just repositioning themselves or leaving the scene. They look like they're exiting. So hopefully this will be this is a sign that there's some sort of resolution to this response there on Jefferson Avenue. They've been there for nearly 3 hours now. We still do see a lot of law enforcement agents and special agents still there, so not everybody has cleared out yet. We're still on standby with exactly what is going on at this time, but it is interesting to see kind of more people come and then more people go. Yeah, and if you're just joining us, we've been on the air for now over 2 hours. There was a credible tip, a significant tip that, according to Birmingham police, warranted them to focus this much resource to possibly find Kamille Mckinney at this location on Jefferson Avenue. Now you're seeing a lot of these SWAT team members walk away from this apartment complex that they've been focusing their attention on. Mary O'Connell is on the scene. She's been there since shortly after 10 o'clock. What is the very latest from what you hear there, Mary?
Hey, John and Brittany. I can tell you that I spoke to Birmingham police about 10 minutes ago asking if there was any news, and I have been constantly asking, has Kamille Mckinney been found? Is there any news yet? And the last I was told is that they are still searching and that they may be close to completing their search. Of course, you've seen just in front of us the fire truck and the rescue unit that were out here have since pulled off, and it appears that SWAT team has pulled back as well. There's still dozens of officers out here and dozens of people waiting to hear some good news. But from what Birmingham police have told us is that they are still searching and that no one has been found at this time.
Thanks, Mary. We appreciate that. We've noticed a number of additional vehicles leave the scene while you were talking there. Not exactly sure where there's another vehicle there you see leaving. We haven't heard any more information from the first responders there on the scene, and we did notice the SWAT members leaving, or at least walking away from the apartment complex where they focused much of their attention since they arrived around 10 o'clock this morning. Let's check in too with WVTM 13's Jeff Eliasoff right now, standing at the other end of the street. Jeff, have you heard any word of what's happening, or have you spoke to any people there at the scene of what's going on right now?
Well, like Mary, I'm going to be very careful about this. There are unconfirmed reports this child has been found, but as I say, we have not heard it directly from our source at the Birmingham Police Department, which is the lead agency on this case, in spite of a number of cheers. We do believe that we have seen the family's vehicle pull away from here, in addition to all these other police emergency vehicles that have pulled away, although we can also see some armed officers, not going to say exactly where and when, that are still on the scene. So it is impossible to know with certainty, and that is what we're waiting for, is the exact certainty of a resolution to this. It would appear that this has been very dynamic. The family has been moved away. There were some honks from emergency vehicles that were sounded sort of optimistic in nature, but again, I'd rather be last on this and be right. So we're all being very, very careful, and as soon as I get a text or a call from our sergeant who's in charge of communication, we, of course, will let you know. In the meantime, there's a lot of activity here in and around this area. It's been this way for the past almost 3 hours. Folks praying, folks gathering with great curiosity. We are probably a couple football fields length away because we did believe that there might be what your FBI agent called a dynamic entry here, and didn't want to either tip the hand of the officers involved.
Come on, guys.
Yes.
We received information that we thought was credible for this particular location, on the location of Kamille. Our officers came to this area, cornered it off. We did a thorough search of the location, all apartments and all vehicles in the parking lot, and we have not located the young lady. We want everybody to understand, please understand, we are still searching for her. And it's our belief that, we did hear the crowd cheer. There was some misinformation because there was another young lady at that complex that was approximately the same size of the young lady, but that was not her. So we are still in search of her. Okay?
Any reports that she has been found? She has not been found.
She has not been found. We understand there's some stuff on social media, and other platforms that are saying that she has been located, but she has not been located.
How confident are you that you will find her even after an extensive search here this afternoon?
We're very confident. We know everybody's concerned about her well-being, and we're going to keep searching. We're not going to give up, and we know this community is not going to give up on her.
Sergeant Williams, have y'all found any suspects, persons of interest out there today?
No, we haven't. We're still searching for any information in this case, any small piece, anything you may know that you may think is insignificant. We want that information. So we're asking everyone, keep your eyes open. Anything you hear, let us know.
And you tell us what unit?
Yes, we searched every unit and every vehicle within that complex.
What led you to...
Yes, we're done. We've exhausted our search at that location. We haven't located anything or any suspects or any evidence of her location.
Can you tell us what led you here?
It's a tip from someone. Someone gave us a tip. So we're taking all tips that come our way, and we're not taking anything for granted. We're going to search every location that we have to search. So we're asking that everybody please keep the information coming, keep it flowing. Don't give up on her. We haven't given up on her, and we're going to locate her.
Sergeant Williams, you told me you had multiple tips this morning. Are you now going to a new location to search based on a second tip?
We have multiple teams that are looking at various tips that we receive. So we're continuously looking at everything we receive. We're not taking anything for granted. So again, we are hoping that everyone keep your eyes open, keep your ears open, keep that information flowing to us because we want it. Okay? Thank you, guys. All right.
Again, that was Sergeant Johnny Williams, a spokesperson for Birmingham Police Department, saying they have resolved this search there on Jefferson Avenue, southwest in Birmingham. They were unable to locate Kamille Mckinney. Despite the tip that they received, they felt it was credible. They felt it warranted that kind of response, but unfortunately at the very end of it all, they were unable to find her. Yeah, unfortunately not the news that we were hoping for today, but of course it is good news that they are looking into every tip and finding every possible avenue to be able to find this 3-year-old little girl. Again, misinformation from any cheering that was going on the scene. There was supposedly another young child that was there that maybe resembled her, but yet she has not yet been found at this time. We are going to have extended coverage with this investigation coming up at 4 o'clock here on WVTM 13 News. We hope that you join us then.